All right, it says I'm streaming, and so sorry about being so late, people. I am really sorry about that. I had lots of stuff to do. The wife had me running around. I wanted to go on a lot earlier for my East Coast Squatchers, but it didn't happen. But at least I made it. And I'm on, and we're going to talk dreams. And I'm going to have Chris calling in, or Ghost Wolf from the chat. He's been having quite a few really cool dreams. Hi, Winner. How are you? I'm really sorry I'm late. I hope I sound okay. I kind of played around in the studio today and did a bunch of stuff, and I'm hoping it looks like everything's doing all right. But I got Chris calling in. I'm going to kind of go off the show that I did the other day early, and I'm sorry about that too. I went early, and I know a lot of people couldn't get on that early, and now here I am going late, and I'm sorry about that because I know a lot of people can't catch the late. But we're going to be late night in the Squatch Zone tonight. And I hope a few people can join in since it's Saturday night. How's it going, Ruth Ann and Bobby? No, I haven't had any more dreams. Wild, huh? I don't dream usually. That's what's so weird about it is the dreams. I don't usually dream. So, but I did my research, like I said, and I did all kinds of research on tsunamis and earthquakes and all that kind of stuff. And all I could find was stuff that puts dreams, like if you have some kind of problem in your life and a tsunami wave means this, and if it's earthquakes and you're telling everybody to run, it means this. And there wasn't anything for airplanes and rockets, though. Not one thing. But I did find something really cool when I talked about the earthquakes. I did some more earthquake research, and I put a video on my Facebook page for those that are my Facebook friends. The guy that does the earthquake thing, he found a correlation between the earthquakes in California and the fires, which I find interesting. So before the fires started in Northern California, and they're all in volcanic regions, Clear Lake, all that up there is all volcanic. So, and it's burning like crazy. Even down here is volcanic, Mammoth Mountain, just only like 60 miles away from me. And a fire over there. They had an earthquake, and then on the other side of the mountain, they had some fires right after the earthquakes. So the same thing happened here. Does it have a correlation? I have no idea. Is the government maybe beaming something down there and starting fires like the California government? I have no idea. Does that cause earthquakes when they do that? I don't know. It's just an interesting thing. Hi, Sam Squatch and Ghost Wolf and Woolly Booger. And hi, Renee. How are you? Yeah, so I found that real interesting. And on the video that I put on my Facebook, I started it. I skipped a whole bunch of the first part of it. You can watch the whole video if you want to. But I started the video, or having it start, on my Facebook page right where he starts talking about the correlation or his theory about the quakes, like maybe starting the fires. He's saying that magma may be pushing up under right there, which caused the earthquakes, and it got close to the surface, started a grass fire, but then the magma also went back down, but the fire was already started. So then the wind just kept it going and spread the fire out, which is interesting to say the least, I think. Yeah, so Chris, you can call if you want to, and we'll get right into it, some dreams. Yeah, up there. So Woolly Burger, you're in Northern California, up there, like where the lava flows are. Hi, Roland. How are you? Love you too, Sam Squatch. Right on, man. I love your videos too. Okay, I'll give you a minute. Time's up. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so really, all my research I found was not anything that was related to dreams. A lot of people, didn't put any dreams of their own or contact me or anything, even though I know a lot of you are having dreams. Yeah, they are sealing off Yellowstone. They're actually having some quakes around Yellowstone. They're saying it's nothing though, but there's so much going on. There's more volcanoes going off right now than usually. There's like 5 at a time per year. Right now there's probably 30 going off right now. There's some volcanoes that haven't went off in 5,000 years and they're going off right now. So something's going on. I mean, there's big cracks in the earth. There really is something going on. And I don't know what it is. I have no idea. It could be something. For the longest time, I always thought something was coming in, like Planet X or Nibiru or however you want to say that, because the sun started acting weird. Some of the other planets are turning on their axis. Their snow caps are melting on Mars. The Earth is getting ready to do a pole shift. The magnetic poles are moving. They're moving a lot. They move so much that they even change the numbers on the runway. And now I'm an old dude. I love airplanes, and I wanted to be a pilot in the Air Force. That never happened. I never even became a pilot, but I've flown a lot in helicopters and airplanes and all around the world in jets. I love flying. And the runways are always 29er right, 29er left. Now they're a different number. I don't know what it is because I haven't flown since they changed the numbers on the runway, but they have changed them. Yeah, I really hope that Yellowstone doesn't go off either. That one's big. That's going to take out some of my family over there. It literally is changing right in front of us. Got to make sure. I don't know. He might have called. I have the sound down. No. Okay. On the phone. Hey, Bolt Gun. How are you? Hi, Pam. Wow, that's thick, all right. That sounds like Northern California, and they call it Lava Bed National Monument, I think it is. It's a really interesting place to go. There's lava tubes and stuff you can go in. There was a big war with the Indians and the Union Army, or our army, the blue coats. And it's an interesting thing. If you ever get a chance to go to the Lava Bed National Monument, go there because it is really interesting. Kind of deserty, but it's still interesting. Hi, Raven. How are you? And lots of people in chat. I guess it isn't too bad to come on real late night in the Squatch Zone. Yeah, so I have this other thing that I don't know if I've talked about this or not on anything that I've done. In 1984, 85, 86, somewhere in there in those 3 years, it's hard to remember because it's so far back for for me. I'm thinking that the booms are actually coming. It might be the Earth doing something, but I have a feeling it's stuff coming in from space. because there was actually a comet that, or a meteor that came in and actually hit the Earth. It was, and they said it was huge. It was 20 meters, and it hit the Earth right by an U.S. Air Force base somewhere over by Iceland. And the Air Force isn't saying anything about it. They're totally keeping it hush hush. But 20-meter one hitting the Earth is big. That would make a big boom. And I know things coming in from space, as they come in, they break the sound barrier, so they'll be making booms, and it'll sound like sonic booms. So it's hard to tell, because if the Earth is also, like one time on my ranch, I had a 20-acre ranch with a pond with this dam that it was blown out, and we fixed it. And for several years it was okay, and then all of a sudden it blew out, and man, it made a big boom. Hi, Chris. How are you?
Hey, how's it going, Alan?
Pretty good, man.
I'm having technical difficulties over here.
Oh, are you?
Yeah.
Well, you sound pretty good.
Yeah, I'm having computer issues, so my computer's like I'm about a minute behind. I got a huge lag.
Oh, really?
As a matter of fact, let me actually. I'm getting a really weird echo.
Uh-huh.
Hi, Pam. Let me call you back on my other landline.
Okay, you could call me on. Yeah, you better do it like that. Yeah. Okay.
I'll call you right back.
Okay. Hi, Knight Rider. How are you? Hey, Cold Warrior. What's up? Yeah, so way back in the mid 80s, I was 85, 84, somewhere in there. I was actually praying, and I wasn't on my knees. I was laying in bed on my back, kind of propped up, and across the room on the dresser there was an LED clock with red letters on it, and it had the time on it. And all of a sudden, as I was praying, I felt like a weight come down on me and kind of push me into the bed. And the next thing I know, I'm out in space, floating around out there. And I felt like I was in a warm bubble. And there was somebody with me, and he was talking with me. He was behind me, and I don't know why I never looked behind me. I think it was because I was checking out the Earth, which looked like a big marble. Hey, Chris.
Hey, what's up, Alan?
That sounds
better?
Yeah, that sounds a lot better.
Okay, yeah, I was getting a weird echo before, and it's bad enough hearing my voice once, let alone twice.
A lot of people can't hear their voice. Like I don't like to hear mine. So I don't really, a lot of people I know, when they do these YouTubes, they watch their self later, and I can't do that. I can't do it.
No, I can't even listen. I can't even listen to the playback.
Right, yeah. That's me. Yeah. I can't do that. Yeah, so like we were talking earlier, and you were having some pretty good dreams. Maybe I should finish telling what I was telling while you were.
Of course.
But so I'm like out in space, and I have somebody with me talking to me, and they're telling me that the prayers of the people before me, my ancestors, and the people that from the time that the United States was created, people have been praying for the United States certain things. And all through history, people have been praying and praying and praying, and their answer never was answered. God didn't answer their prayer. He answers things in his timing. He was talking about his timing. He has a timing. And a lot of times our timing isn't his timing. And it wasn't detrimental to anyone, but they were praying for our country and different things like that, presidents and economy, things. But he had to let things play out, and his plan was towards the end, in the end age, he was going to do some things, only he was going to use everyone that had faith in him or believed in him. And for example, he tells me, for example, I'll take you somewhere and we'll do something. I'll show you, we'll demonstrate it. So we went, and I thought when he was talking about this and showing me these things, I thought it was going to be for tomorrow, the next day, or that week, or a month. I didn't think I was going to wait 30 years for it to be the time of it. But we landed in a hospital. We started going down at a rapid speed, and we went right through the roof of the hospital. We landed in the first floor of the hospital, and he told me to not go in any rooms, but just pray for the healing of the people in the hospital. And as we would do each floor, we would like go through the floor to the next floor, and then we would pray for that floor, and then down to the next floor and to the next floor until we were walking out the front door out. And as we were walking out, people were passing us left and right, and they were all healed. Everyone was healed. And he showed me many more things, but that was the gist of it. And then he told me that everyone in this day, this time, he was going to pour out these blessings on everyone, and this is going to be the answer to everyone's prayers, like healings and all this stuff. And then we're going to do the miracles. It's not our power, it's his power, but he's going to give us authority to use it, which he already does, and a lot of people already use, like to kick demons out and do stuff like that. But there'll be lots and lots of miracles as people start gaining the faith. And I think that time is now, and I think everyone here could be a part of it and see actual miracles happening left and right. So much so, he said it would be on the news, that the mainstream media news would pick it up, because there would be no denying it. And the whole reason for it was, he said at the time, it was too easy to say there's no God and he doesn't care about people and he's mean, and he named off all this stuff. But he said when this time happens, they're going to know that it isn't these people doing it. It'll be who they say is doing it. And they're walking around on the earth spreading this. And then when it reaches a certain amount of people, which I don't know what that is, then he was going to return and for his people. That's what he said. And then I was back in my bed. I felt the weight lift off of me, and I was looking at the clock, and about 2.5 hours had went by. And that was one of the only times I ever lost time. But that was it. That was the thing, and everyone is going to be involved in that. Everyone that has faith. So there you go. And yeah, so earlier, me and Ghost Wolf and I, we were talking earlier, and Ghost Wolf's been having some pretty wild dreams and stuff that you see. So you could go ahead and tell about that.
Yeah, so just to start with, first, let me say hello to all my buddies in the chat room. Much like Alan, I look forward to chatting with you guys every week. You guys are awesome. But first of all, I'll get the comedy out of the way first. The other night, as is typical with me, I'm always fighting these demonic people or beings or people that are. It's like human beings look like beings, but they're masquerading something else. And the other night I was fighting one of them, and I ended up flying out of bed onto my knees about 3 feet away from the bed, and I had to almost stop because sometimes I act out, when I'm fighting, when I act out what I'm doing in these dreams. And so it was kind of funny that I, ended up on my knees, kind of in pain because I like slammed on my knees. I'm looking around like, what the heck, and that was kind of funny. But it's always a lot lately. It's human beings in high places that are actually like demons in disguise, so to speak. Like you don't know they are until you start talking to these people, and it's really the hard to explain, but they're super unusual and nasty, if that makes any sense. I had a dream a few weeks back about I'm not sure if I told you, it was about a panther that had turned into a man, and it was a thing I was fighting. And so the next day I was so kind of curious about what I dreamt about. I looked at, I went to, Google Encyclopedia and found out it was a demon that was described as a black panther that formed into a man. But then the thing was that turned out to be like the leader of all the demons on earth, which I thought really interesting. Is my audio bad?
No, I'm just asking if they say you're loud and clear, so you're all right.
Oh, okay. Oh, good. Okay.
I mean, you sound good to me, but I never know what it sounds like, to everyone else.
Yeah, it's funny to me. It almost sounds like I'm having a conversation with someone, and it's not my voice that I'm hearing. I know that sounds crazy right now what I'm saying, but it sounds like I'm almost comments as I'm speaking.
Right.
Really bizarre. But anyway, I had another one. I heard one you did yesterday about the catastrophe dreams, and I had one just a few days ago that was like I was saying earlier today, it was like fire from the sky. It was people it was funny because the people were all dressed up in outfits. And I only noticed males for some reason. I didn't see any females, but all of a sudden these fireballs falling from the sky and people running like crazy. And hang on one second, I'm going to try in here.
Okay.
Okay, is that better?
Yeah, that sounds way better.
Okay, good. So I was getting some weird like voice going on that didn't make sense to me.
Well, you remember that one time when I think it was the last time we talked, there was actually voices coming over. Those are recorded. You could go back and hear that, believe it or not.
Yeah. That's weird. I'm looking at what Pam is texting about the dream she had about the famous person with the child porn. And it's funny she says that because today someone sent me an article about this guy who got arrested in the next city over for breaking into houses and a sexual predator. And I'm looking at the name, and it turns out it's the cousin and son of two people I work with.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
We actually talked about that earlier today too, about this very same thing.
Yeah, and to Pam's point, it's like these people that are in my dreams, I know they're famous people, but they're not famous yet, if that makes any sense. Like the guy that turned into a panther, he was like dark complected, dark hair, very handsome, and probably like in his 30s. And I could pick him out of the lineup. I mean, it was that clear to me, the one that like transformed from a panther to a human. As soon as I called him out for what he was and started screaming at him, he went from being very smug to backing off, like, oh crap, this guy's not afraid of me type of thing. And
great.
It's just weird how, I don't know, it's hard to explain these dreams because it would just be like you, like say, going to the supermarket or being somewhere, and then all of a sudden things levitate and people around you start turning into these demonic things. And then for me, it's like I end up having to, fight my way out of it,
Mm-hmm.
And I'm having a lot of those lately. In fact, I was telling Alan, I actually called an earthquake within an hour about 10 years ago or so. I was looking, I know this, everything I talk to you guys makes me sound like I'm crazy, but I was looking at a calendar on a computer, and one of the dates jumped off the computer screen like it was in 3D.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, I got this rush of fear, and all I could think of was earthquake, earthquake, earthquake. And I was so freaked out, I went and bought supplies and everything. And I kept having the same vision over and over, and I could tell it wasn't going to be like a catastrophic one, but it was one that would get people's attention, like Alan was talking about yesterday. It was like a 5 or 5.5 that shakes everything up and gets everybody thinking. And I told a lot of family and friends, hey, it's going to happen at 2 o'clock. And it ended up happening like at 3 o'clock, the exact same day. And my phone rang a bunch of times, of people saying, wow, we can't believe you're correct on that or whatever. And as far as, visions go and stuff, I've had several that, have just come true, like down to the letter. And so there's got to be something to dreams more so than just your brain working out. I know that's a function of dreams, is your brain kind of working things out, but I think there's other functions as well, because I've had dead people come to me in like a dream state where it's really real, but it's kind of it's hard to explain. It's kind of when you're in a sleep state, but it's real. You're like really looking and talking to these people.
I've had that
I've
too.
had lots of things like that happen before. So there's got to be something more to it than that, because one time when I was a kid, my mother, in fact, I think I get all this from my mom. And one day I was going to go out to ride my little motocross bike. I was like 12 years old or 11 years old. And she says, I wouldn't go out if I were you. And I said, oh, come on. I said, you worry all the time. I kind of laughed it off. And there's this place where, if you guys know the King's Hawaiian brand of bread and stuff, it started in Torrance. And when they're building the first factory, the first bakery, we used to ride our bikes around the dirt lot, as they were baking this. And so we had this little track set up, and we'd ride around all the time. And so I went over there and I was by myself and I was going to go off this big jump. And all of a sudden I hear my mom's voice audibly say, Chris, stop. So I slammed on the brakes and slid out to a stop, and I thought, what the heck was that? It kind of scared me, hearing a voice like that kind of scared me. And so I went over to the edge where I was going to jump my bike off of, that I did 100 times before, and I looked down, and in the few days that between when I'd been there last, they had dug this pit out, and they had all the rebar laced in the bottom of it with straight rebar sticking up every 2 feet or something. So had I flown off that thing on my bike, I probably would have been skewered and I wouldn't have been here,
Man.
And
wow.
So that was like kind of a premonition type deal that I listened to. And then there was one other time I kind of told Alan I was going to save it so I could share with everybody, but my mom, growing up, she had a lot of surgeries. She had a lot of medical issues, and she used to have these big cyst-like things that would grow in her abdomen, and they weren't cancer or anything like that. But one of them, I know when I was a kid, they told me was like the size of almost like a football, like really huge. And so my poor mother had surgeries all through life, so she was no stranger to getting anesthesia and all that. And one of the last surgeries she had, I would say, this is probably now 15 years ago. I was at my house, and she had had a surgery on Monday, and she really hadn't come out of the anesthesia yet. And so this is like Wednesday now. So I'm at home, and I got home from work, and I used to smoke cigarettes. So I was out in the backyard smoking a cigarette, just not thinking of anything. And all of a sudden, I could hear my mom's voice in my head saying, I just want to give up. I want to die. And she said it a bunch of times. And so I started thinking back, hey, Mom, you can't do that. You've got grandchildren. You've got plenty to live for. You're not that old, and you don't really mean that. And she's like, yeah, I'm just tired. I just want to die. And I'm like, no, you can't do that. And so all of a sudden I thought, I better go up to the hospital. And then all of a sudden I put the cigarette out before I walked back in the house. Something came over me, and I'm not a doctor and I know nothing about medicine, but something came over me that said, she's got carbon monoxide in her blood. It's from the anesthesia. And that didn't make much sense to me. But I said, forget it. So I drove to the hospital, which is about 20 minutes away. And when I got there, my dad was in the lobby, like way away from the room. And he says, man, it's weird that you're here right now. And I said, why is that? And he says, your mom's been saying over and over, I wish Chris was here. I wish Chris was here. And he goes, she's still saying it, lean in and listen. So I leaned in, and sure enough, my mom's out of it. She's completely comatose, but she's muttering, I wish Chris was here. I wish Chris was here, over and over. So the doctor started walking in the room, and I stopped the doctor, and I knew I had to be very gentle the way I said this. And I said, hey, Doc, I'm not trying to, tell you how to do your job or anything, but has anybody checked her blood to see if she has carbon monoxide in her blood? And he looked at me really funny, and he said, who told you that? Why did you say that? Who told you that? And I said, no one. It's just I'd heard it somewhere. I made up a lie. I said, no, I just heard it somewhere. And since my mom hasn't come to, have you checked? He says, wait a minute, and I'll do it right now. So he goes and gets like something, like a syringe, and they draw some blood, and he puts it in this vial and does something, and all of a sudden, he literally, in front of me and my dad, starts yelling, code blue.
Whoa.
He brings, the nurses come running in with another syringe. They stick it into her IV, and he looks at me, the doctor looks at me with this panic look on his face and goes, you're right, it was the anesthesia. I tested her blood, checked carbon monoxide in her blood. This thing we just gave her, we'll bring her out of it. And within about 2 or 3 minutes, she woke up.
Wow, man.
For the first time in 3 days. And I asked her, hey, do you remember anything? And she goes, no, I don't remember anything. So here was my mom from, 10 miles away, summoning me, saying, I'm just going to die. And then somehow I get this message of carbon monoxide.
Wow.
And so I really, truly believe in my heart, had I not listened to that, she probably would be dead.
I wonder how many people, hear those things and don't think it's anything. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
and play it off.
Hey, if you guys haven't figured out already, I'm not afraid to put myself out there, even if people think that I'm ridiculous or dumb or stupid or lying. I don't care. When I have an intuition, I follow it just because of things like this.
Well, I have a friend, everybody might know her, named Christina George. Recently, like a couple of days ago, she got a call from one of her friends and said that her daughter was missing and they couldn't find her. And Christina is like you can get a feel for someone and you can figure out where they are or see where they are. And she saw her, at first she even knew that something was wrong with her, like drugs or something. And she was dizzy. She went off the road. She went into the water. The only bad thing, it bummed out Christina. She said that it's good when you find one alive. It's bad when you find one that is dead. So she told the lady to call the police and tell them to look, somewhere on the way home for a water place and see if they can't find her. And they found her within 30 minutes, and she was.
Was it out of state?
Was passed. California. In California, over by Sacramento.
Well, that's too bad.
Yeah, it really is. But she said it's sometimes a curse kind of gift, and sometimes it's a blessing kind of gift.
Well, yeah, I've had the same thing where people have asked me about certain things, and I know what the answer is. And it's like, I'd like to tell them good news. I don't like to tell them, bad news. And I told my secretary at the time when I was at my other job, and other people way in advance about Chandra Levy, if you remember her.
Yeah.
And I could close my eyes and envision the whole thing, and that senator that she was working for absolutely positively set it up.
I believe it.
Guaranteed.
Well, I remember this morning you were telling me about the Twin Towers.
Oh yeah, that was really weird. 9/10, the day before 9/10 was my son's birthday, and I was telling my secretary at the time, I really feel like something's going to happen. I said, something in the world's going to happen. I don't feel right. And I just felt almost sick, if that makes kind of almost like where you got a really bad sinus headache and then you feel sick on top of it. And she goes, well, maybe you're just feeling older because your son's turning, 10 or whatever it was. And I'm like, no, that's not it. And I was bothered because I kept having this reoccurring dream that I saw these two skyscrapers, and it was like I had the viewpoint of being on the cone of a missile. So it wasn't from the side like the planes hit, but it was from the top. And I came flying down the top, and I was blowing up these two buildings. And it kept happening over and over and over again. And I was too stupid. I really honestly didn't, recognize Twin Towers or know about Twin Towers, really. And so then after it happened, I still didn't put two and two together. And then someone did an aerial view of it before they knocked it, before the towers fell. When I saw those two spires, the things on the top shooting up, I'm like, oh my God, that's the dream. And it was over and over. I must have had that dream 10 times in the month before.
Wow. Man. Yeah. And we were talking about it, and you were saying you felt bad that you couldn't get a hold of somebody and warn them,
Right.
But really, like, if you had no idea, how could you warn them? First of all, and then second, would they even believe you, even if you did know? Because I think
Probably
they
not.
knew anyways. I think it was all a planned thing, but now I'm getting out there my own self.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of people that think that way. I kind of don't, but there's good. I'd say, to be perfectly fair about it, I think there's good evidence on both sides of that one.
Yeah.
There's good there's scientific evidence that says it ain't really possible, and there's some other things that happen that are almost too coincidental. So I don't know that we'll ever know, really, unless something breaks 20 years from now. Like you hear stuff about the JFK assassination nowadays. It didn't come out when it happened, so you never know.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I think a lot of stuff we're going to find out here soon, and we're not going to like it. A lot of people aren't going to like it. It's going to be a wake up call. No, I really.
But I guess the thing that's bothering me so much about it, and it shouldn't be a surprise, and we were talking about this a little bit too, is that we're in the times of Noah, and the Bible tells us all about this. It just says in the end times we'll be in the times of Noah, and we're talking a little bit about how everything that 20 years ago you would have thought was taboo and bad for the country is now good and accepted and welcomed, and
Yeah, it's opposite.
and this isn't even it has nothing to do with politics. It has to do with morality.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I was telling you, I seen a video, somebody shared a video with me in Messenger about, I think it's called TEDx. And this girl was doing a speech in an auditorium full of people, and she was saying that sexual predators it's like it's okay to be a sexual predator. It's okay. It's that, I couldn't believe it when I was watching it. I thought, oh my God, that who would ever say that in the first place? It's like being regular, only they have a little bit of things messed up, and it's just that they're okay people. Really, they are. It's like, okay, they are.
I told people, like I was telling you a long time ago, I was saying, well, the way things are going, the whole same-sex marriage thing is going to be accepted. And all my friends thought I was crazy. And, I told them different things. And I told them a couple years ago, I said, you watch, the pedophiles are next in line to say that their sexual preference is a lifestyle, not a disease. And they're going to start getting the same rights as same-sex people. And you watch what happens. You heard it here first. I've been saying it for years. You watch what happens.
Yeah, it's already happening a lot, especially in our state. our state is, and like what was it? Q was saying our government, because the federal government wouldn't give the state of California a bunch of money because they want to be the sanctuary state, and then they're signing up people to. They're saying only in San Francisco, that people that are immigrant or illegal immigrants can sign up and vote. And so Trump wouldn't give them any money. So now they're saying it's like coming out in order, but only I don't know. They're saying that how do they get their money then? So they start fires, and it's a state disaster, so they get federal money. But then that goes against what I was reading about the earthquake guy, where he was saying there was earthquakes, and then the fire started right after the earthquakes. And he was saying his theory, or he says it's not really a theory yet, it's just it's a work in progress, but he just thinks it's really weird that there was earthquakes, and then right after that fire started right there. But then I know they have technology, do what they call it, directed energy weapons, and maybe that'll make an earthquake. I don't know. I have no idea. When you hit harmonics on an earth, that starts a fire. I have no idea. It's just an interesting.
Well, sure. What about HAARP?
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
HAARP's a giant microwave tower. I mean, that's what HAARP is. So.
Yeah, well, there's more than one HAARP too. There's like 118 of them, and that's actually what's causing.
I didn't know about that.
With that, that's how they're changing the weather in California, like making the drought, so that they get rid of all the farmers, and why all the trees are dead in the Northwest, California, Oregon, Washington, and that makes it easier to make fires. Even like it could have been planned way out like that, like. Use HAARP to steer the weather patterns where we don't get rain, and then the trees get stressed and start dying. Then the beetles come in and go crazy.
Yeah, it's been what two years since we went to the Bigfoot spot. Remember, all the whole mountainside was orange with dead pine up there.
You should see it now. It's even worse. I mean, well, they were harvesting them in some places. But, I think down in there, I think they haven't harvested. But then, the whole area down down in that little valley is destroyed from the Bigfoot, knocking trees down and making their little structures and stuff like that. I mean, I don't know how many times I was sitting down there and hear the trees do make a noise when they fall in the forest. And I never heard a tree fall in the forest before, except there, where Bigfoot pushed the tree over. And I don't know how many times, 3 times, I think, we sat in there and hear a tree fall. And that's so rare, I thought. Live my whole life in the woods and never hear that. And then in 2 years' time, hear it 3 times in that one spot. And I never seen so much destruction either. I've been all over the woods. I never seen so many trees pushed over, and a lot of them healthy looking and big. Like, who could push something over like that big? I mean, I'm getting off track. That's not dreams, but but that it's an interesting thing, real interesting.
Yeah, but it's funny. It's funny too, though, that whenever I start having these dreams like that, and even more so when I talk about them, I think these things aren't smart enough yet to figure out that I don't scare very easily. And for all of you folks who have heard me several times, talk about the place where I work and the stuff that happens about where I work, I've got a really good one for you. And this is on Thursday night, so it's fresh. So there's certain days a week where half of our plant is kind of shut down, and we had an emergency, and I had to have 2 people go to this area of the plant and start up a couple machines. So I waited about a half an hour, and I was going to walk out to check on these 2 guys. And we have these big giant, just think of a room that's 50 feet long by 20 feet wide. And it gets, it's a place where we put our products, and there's two big heavy doors, and each one of these doors has to weigh 50 pounds. I mean, it's a big commercial room, and we've got 15 of them in our bakery. And so when they're not in use, the doors are open. And so I'm walking out to go check on these guys, and right in front of me, both doors, there's not a human in sight. I'm looking right directly at it, and both the doors slam shut with a bang. And I'm thinking to myself, first I'm thinking, well, that's pretty impossible. And second of all, I'm thinking, how much energy does it take to push two 50-pound doors at the same time and slam them shut? And so I went over there. I was on site in 5 seconds, literally. And I opened the doors and I looked. There was nothing there. I walked around this section of boxes, and the two guys working were at least 100 feet away operating machinery. So it couldn't have been them. Totally impossible. Not the wind, not a vibration, impossible. And I thought, okay, good one, but not very impressed. But to see something like that is just, you know, even though I've seen this 100 times, it still impresses me.
That I would have needed.
When I see it,
it's
still amazing.
Home, you know, that the bang of the doors I would have had to go change my shorts. You know,
yeah, I still put in a couple more hours after, and nothing happened. But pretty crazy stuff, though.
That is like the one you were telling me about with your wife.
Oh,
like
yeah.
It's only been
nice
when you only see it, you know, now.
Right. Yeah, it's always nice when you get validation, you know. But lately, I've been telling Alan, you know, walking down my sidewalk, I see these weird-looking, gangly creatures. When I was talking to Alan about it, I was calling it the skinny bear. It's about 6 foot tall, hunched over, and it almost walks like a bear would walk, but it's really skinny. And I've seen it a bunch of times where my wife, you know, she knows, you know, we've been together almost 20 years, so she knows when I jump up and run outside, I'm probably looking at something, right? And so this has happened about, you know, 5 or 6 times in the past couple of weeks. But this week, there was a twist. I have a small dog. It was sitting on my chair with me. We were watching TV. And I seen one out of the office window, and I looked, and all of a sudden the dog reacted. He popped his head up and started growling. And then even my wife said, "Hey, did you just see something walk by there?" And I said, "Yeah, I did." And it was just nice that, you know, someone else had seen it, not just me, for a change, you know?
Yeah, it is. That happened with me and my wife. We lived on that ranch. It was like, it had 3 old copper mines on it. And then off the property, there was some BLM land with a huge copper mine on it. So everybody had little copper mines all around the area. It was heavily mined, and they even called it Sales Creek because they sold copper. That was what it was like, the money that they used, the copper. But all kinds of things would be happening that the kids would see little people, you know, 20 inches tall, peeking out from behind cabinets and dressers and beds, and run across the room. I never saw anything. And then the only thing that ever happened to me was something would pop me in the head, like a knuckle or a thump, like somebody flicks your ears or something. But it would like flick my head, and there wouldn't be anyone. And it happened to a lot of people, even people that would come over and be visiting. They would be like, "Hey, you know, somebody just popped me in the head." And so one day, me and the wife we were having a little bit of an argument. She wanted me to do something, and I had other things to do, but I usually lose, and I knew I was losing, and I was losing again. And where I was standing was, she was in the bathroom and I was in the main bedroom. So it was the master bath bedroom, and there was a towel hanging on a rack in between us. And all of a sudden the towel flipped up right between us. and ended everything, ended the argument, we just stood there looking at each other like, did that just flip up like that? Like, yeah, you saw it? Yeah. And then we were out of there. Even though that was our bedroom, we had to go back, but for a little while we didn't go in there. But all of a sudden she was validated of all the things that she said was going on with her. And I kind of was like, whatever, I kind of believed her, but you know how it is. And now I believed everything they said, everybody, all the little people and all the stuff. I believed it after that.
Well, it's funny because speaking of little people, I'd say probably my first normal problem was with little people.
Oh,
And
really?
when I was a little kid, I'd be laying in bed, and there'd be like 20 of these things walk by my open bedroom window, and they were about, like you said, 2 feet tall, and they were the funny thing, they were transparent green always, and they'd walk in each one when they'd walk past the door, they would look in and give me like a scowl, a dirty look, and then they'd take off, and there'd be like a dozen of them, like a little army of them.
Wow.
And I'd wait till they all passed, and then I would get up, and the brother I slept with would never wake up. And so I'd get the courage to run through the kitchen, because our house was kind of a circle with the kitchen in the middle, and I'd run through the kitchen to my parents' bedroom. And this was almost nightly event about these tiny things, and they weren't real. I mean, you could see through them, but they were like 20% opaque, if you know what I mean, like see through, but you still see them, and they're green, like forest green, and they look like it's hard to. I've seen photos of what people say these forest, mini people look like, and it kind of looks like them, but the ones I saw were even meaner.
Right, like troll-y kind of looking, huh?
Exactly. They weren't cute like a yard gnome, and
right.
They weren't like mystical looking like a gargoyle. These were just like ugly little little scrunched up ugly humans.
See,
if
now
that makes any sense.
my tribe, they have some stories about those. Like in Oklahoma, the white people would come in and want to build, buy some property and want to build, and their neighbors who happen to be Native American, they would tell them, don't build right there because that's the trail of the little people. And if you do that, you're gonna, they're gonna mess with you because you're putting it right where they go through all the time. Just move it over 30 feet and you'll be fine. It'll go, they won't bother you. And nobody listens. They put the house there, and all of a sudden now the people that are in there, they're saying, hey, our house is haunted. It has poltergeist. And it really wasn't poltergeist. It was those little guys. And they would describe the same thing. They would see them, and I think that's why they called them poltergeists. They weren't ghosts like spirit people. They were little ghost looking weirdo things, and mess with them, break dishes, all kinds of weird stuff, turning lights off and on, flipping mattresses, doing weird stuff.
Yeah, I would see a dozen of these little dudes, man. They traveled in a pack.
Yep. Yeah, there's all kinds of stories. The Native Americans have stories just like they do for Sasquatch, and names. All of them have different names for them, but only it's not what would you say, geographically locked into a certain area. It's all over the place, everywhere, all over. But the people don't listen to they think it's lore or legend or myth, and it's not. It's real. It's real stuff. Yeah, I think that's why a little bit they have anger with white people or us, because we don't listen, to what they tell us is out there. Very interesting stuff, A little shoe made of mouse skin with wear marks inside of it. I never seen that. I don't know. They like eating candy. That's interesting.
I don't know, but they sure were scary to like a 4-year-old kid. That's for sure.
Yeah. Oh yeah, they're real playful like that, and they like to pull. In fact, the Indians call them tricksters. They also will do things. It's kind of like, oh man, what was that? There was that story about Willie Winkle. Is that his name? The one that fell asleep?
No, that's no.
I can't remember his name, but he fell asleep and was gone like 20 years, but he thought he was only gone for a night. The Indians have lots of stories about those, and usually it's little people, and they'll call your name and get you to follow them. Is not Rumpelstiltskin, Rip Van Winkle. That's it, Rip Van Winkle.
Oh yeah, that's it.
But there's lots of
Cold
stories
Warrior
like
gets
that.
the.
Go ahead.
No, I said Cold Warrior gets the prize.
Yeah.
Rip Van.
I'm actually working on a prize. I found out that this software that I use, there's a wheel. I could put a wheel up and people could spin the wheel, or I could give them a chance to spin the wheel and they can win prizes. And when I worked at the casino, that was my favorite thing. I had this wheel built and I put coffee mugs and shirts and tickets to movies and all kinds of different stuff on it, and randomly call people and have them spin the wheel and they would win whatever it was that it. Sometimes it was double jackpot, a double jackpot. So if they hit a $50 jackpot, then I would double their jackpot if they hit one that night. If not, they got a hat, a hat saying they spun the wheel. No. But I'm going to work on that and see if I can't do something like that. I can send some books and stuff to people.
I went to the Mid-State, the Mid-State Fair here in Paso Robles. It comes every year, and Lake Lopez, the place where I like camping and fishing. They have a ranger set up there, and they have this thing where you can win prizes. And it's one of those things where you have like a disc, and there's a bunch of pegs. And the disc goes flipping back and forth, and then whatever little box at the very bottom your little puck thing lands in, you get that prize, right?
Uh-huh.
And 3 out of the 4 prizes are really lame, but the good thing to win is there's a day pass that's good for the rest of 2018, so it saves you $10 every time you drive in.
Whoa, that's a good one.
And I've won one the last 2 years, so I know the ranger because I go there so often. And I said, hey, I'm going to win. You must just get me a pass out because I'm going to win it. I win it every year, every time I do this. He's like, nah, you won't do it. And I said, sure, watch. And I put the puck in the center, and I go, all you have to do is believe. And I dropped the thing, and I went all the way to the right, all the way to the left, and then it dropped right in. And the guy's gone, no kidding. And so now I got a pass 3 years in a row.
Wow, man, that's pretty cool. I have a game I do like that too, and they won't let me play anymore.
Cold Warrior's right. It is Plinko. I know what Plinko is. It's exactly how it is.
Yeah, they have the one where you can. All the prizes are the same, like the big giant animal, but it's almost impossible. Mm-hmm. It's to stand the Coke bottle up with like a fishing pole thing with a ring on it. And, and you grab it. I can do it every single time. And now when they see me coming, I can't play. They won't let me play. Just like the casinos, the casinos won't let me play 21 anywhere. When I walk in, they immediately, as soon as I sit down, I play a couple of hands, and all of a sudden the pit boss walks over and says, I'm sorry, but you can't play. And I'm not even a professional. I just play by the book. So what? I was trained by a bunch of dealers. But I'm pretty good at it, and I guess I have a reputation. It really sucks because I like playing blackjack. I win a lot.
Okay, here. I got one word for you. The next time you go to this casino, okay? Because I like to think outside the box. Mm-hmm. Disguise.
Oh man, walk in with like a funny nose with a mustache and glasses, something like that. Maybe I could dress like Michael Jackson. Yeah, so like I'm gonna talk about one more dream here that I had. I wasn't gonna talk about it. It happened so long ago, And I don't know if it's even real or the weird thing is I don't dream. So this is the last dream from oh man, 20 years ago. Only the city was destroyed, and they were kind of like hunting the whoever the bad guys were. They were going after the women and children, and I made it my job to sneak around and kill everyone that had women and children with them, was like leading them off like bad. And then I would sneak them back through all the debris and torn up buildings and burning cars to a safe spot. And then I would go back out looking for some more. And I did that all several or 8 times before I woke up. And I mean, I was ruthless. You know, I was carrying a 44 Magnum and a 41 Blackhawk, Super Blackhawk, single action. And I was using them, you know, one would run out, and then I would use the Blackhawk. And I was deadly between the eyes shots and taking these guys out and then grabbing the women and children and taking them back. And my wife and some other women were leading them even somewhere else, you know, away from, I was just taking them to them and they were taking them off. And I always thought that might happen somewhere or some, you know, at some time. I don't know if it ever will. It just seems so real. It was another color dream. And I don't have dreams, so it stuck with me for a long time. And I don't know if that'll ever happen here in the United States.
Well, you know, it's funny that you talk about recurring dreams, and you just like nudge my memory on one. It must have been, I'm going to say, over a dozen times. I had a dream that there was at least country, if not worldwide, disaster. And I was always helping people get from one place to another. And at one place, there's like tons of people. And I'm like, okay, 30 people are going to go into this barracks. And we're finding places to like shelter and stuff. And I was organizing these people going into whatever little buildings we could find. And you know, they were always dependent on me to come up with ideas on how we're going to procure our water for the day or our protection. Or it was very apocalyptic, but I'm telling you, it must have been, like I said, maybe even 20 times over and over and over. Really strange.
Yeah, that is. I don't like the reoccurring ones, especially the ones where you go to sleep, have a dream, get up, and go to the bathroom, walk around, get yourself kind of awake, and then lay back down and drop right back into it. And then the next day, go to bed and then drop right back into it again. I hate those. I hate them.
And it's never the good ones you do that with. It's the bad ones, always.
Right, bad ones. I know I probably should tell one that now this one has meaning, okay? Like this is a dream that it would be where what was going on in the dream was I don't think is ever going to happen, but it had something to do with what was going on in my life probably. And there was a guy, and I don't know who he is, he just decided that he wanted to fight all the time, fight. And we fought and we fought and we fought, and we never really got anywhere, like a winner or a loser. And every time we ran into each other, we fought. And finally, you know, I heard he was just gonna. Somebody told me he was just gonna bring a gun and shoot me the next time. And that would be the end of it. No more fights. He was just gonna win. You know, just kill me. So I called him up and told him, well, let's meet somewhere. And I armed myself, and we met in it looked like a warehouse district or something, kind of like Dirty Harry or something. And as soon as I got out of the car, I wasn't even prepared, but as soon as I got out of the car, he opened fire on me. I didn't even see him. Just all of a sudden, here, bullets are flying, and there was a trash dumpster that was close. So I dove towards the trash dumpster. But as I'm in the air flying, a gold light, that's the only thing I think of, was really small at first, and then it grew, and then it turned into a gold sash or belt, big wide belt, and that turned into a big giant angel, and he caught me in midair. I mean, he formed and then caught me in midair, and the way he caught me, as I went by. So when he pulled me to him, my back was to him. Even though I did see him as I was going by, you know what I mean? I seen him go from a gold little light to a full-size 12-foot tall or 15-foot tall angel-looking thing with a white tunic and long hair. And he caught me, but then, and the guy is still shooting, and he starts turning me towards the guy shooting, and I started asking him. In my mind, I'm thinking, what in the world, I'm going to get shot, why are you doing that? And then I realized, like, he talked to me with his brain and said, don't worry, I got you. But then I also read the rest of his thoughts as he was turning, that he was going to get that guy, and that guy was going to tear him limb from limb, and guns and bullets and everything weren't going to hurt this angel thing or whatever it was. And I started yelling at the guy with the gun. I started having compassion for him, like, run, dude, run. This thing's going to get you. You better run. He already has me, but you better run. And actually, the only color in the dream, it was all black and white. The only color was the gold and white sash. Everything else was black and white. And I woke up. That's when I woke up. And I still to this day don't know what that means or what that meant. I know it has a meaning. It's not going to happen. I don't think it's one of those ones that's going to happen. I think that's one that means something, where you're having a trouble in your life or something. But I wondered what the gold was forever. I still do.
Can I guess who the guy was that you were having the gunfight with?
I don't know who it was.
Oh.
That's what I don't even know the guy. It racked my brain, like, who is it that I was fighting? It was just some random person in the dream. And there was nobody else in the dream but me and that guy in the dream. And I was always trying to avoid him because it was a fight all the time. Even though I wasn't scared of him, it was just getting to be a hassle. And then when I heard he wanted to just have a shootout, it was like, oh, I got him now. I grew up with guns. I'll shoot him. And that's when I said, this sounds good. Let's just meet somewhere and get it over with, because I'll take him out. But then he cheated. That part I didn't like. Wow. Hi, Carlala and Robert and Pocket Pro football helmets. Cool. Hi, Sai. I don't have very many dreams. I just told you all the dreams, except for the stupid, goofy ones. Like, I will have those, like, right before you wake up. You got to go to the bathroom, and you're standing there, and you're trying to go to the bathroom, and then you wake up, and you realize you better get your butt in the bathroom, like, right now. Those kind of stupid ones, I have those kind a lot, but not ones that have any kind of substance,
I just wish I had more normal dreams.
What would you call normal, though?
Anything where I'm not for my life, or ripping, having to rip things or people apart, or, my poor wife, she's woke me up, and you know, I'm sitting up in bed, you know, yelling out prayers and throwing punches at the same time. She's like, you know, wake up, are you okay? And it's just like crazy. You
That's
know,
that would be kind of, that would get old. You're right.
well, it doesn't happen nightly. I'm not going to say it does, but you know, for sure, it probably happens monthly. And I'd say 90% of my dreams are not fun or pleasant at all.
I
And I think
haven't pissed the bed yet, Bolt Gun. Not yet. I thought about it like, man, I'm glad I woke up because it was close. Because I was really trying to let go. You know. Oh boy. Yeah, go ahead, Chris.
I'd
Sorry
rather
about
just
that.
yeah, no, I'd rather just normal dreams. I mean, 90% of my dreams I'm doing battle. And I think I know why. I think I know why it is because during the day and you know, generally in my life, I think that these things know that I'm against them. I'm not afraid of them, and you know, I'm talking to a lot of people about this, and I've helped a lot of people. It's a way of trying to knock me off what I'm doing, you know, and it's not going to work, but it just makes, you know, some nights I don't really, you know, I'm like, oh man, here we go again, you know.
Yeah. I get what you mean there, only I have that happening in real life. Like
Yeah.
circumstances try to take me out. Like my leg, for instance. I'm healthy. I work out, constantly working out, and I'm real healthy, hiking everywhere, working my butt off. And then they accidentally block the artery in my leg and die on the table 2 times, you know, in a wheelchair, and then fight my way out of the wheelchair. But it seemed like everything comes against me. Like the more, like what you were saying, the more you pray and the more you help people, the more it seems like those kinds of things attack. In fact, I found usually when it's so bad that it's starting to really, starting to make you feel like you want to give up, you know, and you don't feel like fighting anymore, that's about right when you're going to win or overcome it. And
Right.
I mean, it'll get right to the point where I don't feel like doing this anymore. I'm just going to roll over and give up and quit fighting so hard. And that's whenever the breakthrough happens.
See, you know, although I do a lot of good, my motivation is anger, and I'll tell you why. It's anger because for the first 45 years of my life, I wasn't smart enough or educated enough to know how to fight back, and so I was a victim all those years.
Oh.
And so my motivation is twofold. It's anger because of the nonsense I had to put up with all through my life, you know, and you know, I'm old enough that, you know, when I was going through the worst of this, nobody was talking about ghosts or supernatural. And you tell someone, you know how many churches I called for help?
Oh, they won't help you.
I mean, can you imagine knowing me now that I'm calling people for help? Not even, but I called several churches. Not one of them wanted to help me. Not one.
Well, they don't know what to do. Still to this day, they don't know what to do.
And the one that
they're lost.
And the one guy that did talk to me said, "It's got to be something you're doing. You're doing it, and there's something you're doing wrong." And I'm like, "Dude, this has been happening to me since I was like 4 years old." And he's like, "Yeah, what have you been doing?"
That's like when
You know,
when I was in Africa, and I'm with 7 preachers, and they're Pentecostal, full gospel, tongue talking, you know, Bible thumping, always making fun of me because I was like a heathen, you know. I barely found God. I hadn't really changed yet. I mean, I was changing. God was working on me, but only he was working on the inside of me, and all they could see was the heathen that I was. I still cussed, and you know, I was rough, pretty rough. But we got in Africa, and one morning I got up and I heard like a hum in my ear, kind of like a vroom, and I felt it go through my body, a vibration. and it kept happening. Every 15 minutes or so, I'd feel this go through, like an energy go pulse through my body. I took a shower and I went down for breakfast, and I was sitting there at breakfast with everyone, and I felt this, this pulse go, like an energy go through me. And throughout the day, it started getting more pronounced, and it was coming quicker intervals. And we drove 300 miles. It took nearly all day to do it. And we were going out to this village, and when we got there, we were going to videotape. They were the actual church group, or whatever they call themselves. They were donating money, mission money, out there, and they were helping them grow food, make a farm, and they were planting churches over there, Pentecostal churches. So my job was to go out and document how the money is being spent, how much did they get, what did they buy, how's everything looking and everything. And when I got out there, I thought I was going to die. It was getting so bad. I thought there was really something wrong with me, and I was going to die. I didn't know if I ate something, or a mixture of eating or drinking something. I didn't know. All I knew was it wasn't good, and it was more pronounced. And when it pulsed through my body, it would go down and up, like a couple of times, and I could just feel it vibrating me and hear it in my ears. And it was scaring the what out of me. And I said something to the guys, the closest one, the one that I was kind of friends with, because I wasn't friendly too much. They weren't friendly to me, so I wasn't very friendly with them, because I wasn't like them. I wasn't whatever. At least I was good at what I was doing. That's why they had me, but I wasn't like them. So we didn't get along like really, really great. Well, we got out there and I did my job, and then they were going after I, documented everything with the video, did the interviews, spent like 3 or 4 hours out there with them. I ran all my batteries out. It was 120 degrees, probably 85% humidity, freaking hot. I went back to the van and was putting my gear away and sitting there popping little Reese's peanut butter cups. And these 3 little girls come walking up, and the middle little girl looked like something hit her like an axe, like when she was really little, or something split her head like wide, and it had a big scar in her head, and her eyes were even apart, and the scar went down her face. And I was thinking, oh my God, how did you live through? How did that little girl live through it out here, where the only clothes everybody's wearing is old flip-flops and Fruit of the Loom underwear? I mean, there was really nobody dressed. There was no clothes. It was clothes you can't afford. You can't afford to have clothes there. And there's no hospital, there's no electricity, there's no water, there's no sewer, there's no restaurant. There's when you want dinner, you go catch the chicken, and they clean it and everything, and they cook it right there. I mean, it was primitive. And I was thinking, how in the world did that girl survive whatever it was that split her head like that? And I was thinking, man, I need to pray for her. And I wasn't even that kind of, I just have a heart for kids. I have 6 kids at home, 3 foster kids. So, I mean, I had a heart for kids. And when I was looking at her, this energy was going crazy inside of me, but I was not concentrating on what was going on inside of me. I was looking at her, and I'm thinking, okay, I seen these preacher guys, they go over and they put a hand on the people's head or their shoulder, and they pray for them, pray that Jesus heals them and stuff like that. So I didn't even know what I was doing. I thought, okay, I'm just going to do that. I didn't see anything wrong with it. And then I'm going to give them some peanut butter cups. What a good deal. Well, I step towards the little girl, and I'm standing right in front of her, and as I raise my hand up to put it, I was going to just put it right in the scar in her head. It was well healed. Old scar, old wound. It was healed. And I was just going to lay my hand in there and say the prayer, Jesus healer. And that was about it. Thank you, amen. And as I raised my hand up, all of a sudden I felt all this energy fly through my hand. It hit the little girl. She flew back like 10 feet, flying back, landed on her back, bounced a couple times. It was all going in slow motion to me. The little girls watched her go down, and then they turned and looked at me, and their eyes were really big, and their mouth was hanging open. And I was looking at them. My eyes are really big, and my mouth was hanging open. I'm thinking, oh my God, And I looked around, and I realized everybody was running towards me. And there was probably 250 tribal members over there, and they were coming after me. And I was thinking, oh my God, they're going to eat me. I am going to be dinner tonight. Even though I was invited to dinner, I am now going to be dinner, because I heard were cannibals, but only they say they didn't do that anymore. Right. They found God, and they weren't cannibals. They were like me, heathens, but man, they're coming after me. And they surrounded me, and I was thinking, oh my God, this is it, and everybody was jabbering, and I don't know what they're saying. That the language was named Chui. That was the name of the language. And they're jabbering, and then I noticed they were pushing their children to me, and I had no clue what they were wanting. I mean, the energy in my body is going crazy, but I am not paying it. I have way more to think about than that at the moment, right? I'm faced with 200 people surrounding me or more, and I don't know what to do. And this guy takes my hand and puts it on the little boy's head that's standing next to me, and I feel some energy go through my arm and into the little boy. And I was looking straight at the guy, right in his eyes. I didn't look down at the little boy. And he smiled. He felt it too. And he smiled. And then he grabbed my other hand and put it on another little kid. And another one. And then he was shaking his head and smiling, going, see, and put my hand. And I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to say, Jesus touch him, Jesus heal him. I didn't have to say nothing. I didn't say anything. All I had to do is just touch all the little kids. So I touched every little kid. And something came out. This energy was working its way out. Every time I touched a little kid, it went into this little kid. And then the women, okay, all the little kids are done. Now they're pushing the women at me. And I mean, they're like right up on me too. And I knew what to do. They didn't have to grab my hand or anything. I just started doing it, and I looked up, and I seen the preachers, and they had their clipboards, and they're waving at me like, get over here, get over here, like, come here. So they're my boss, and I said, trying to tell everybody, I gotta go, and I was touching everybody as fast, I gotta go, and I started making my way to those guys. And then the men weren't having it. They blocked my way. And I could smell all the booze on their breath, too, their homemade brew that they made. I mean, they had been drinking. And when they smiled, their teeth were filed like shark teeth. And they didn't have tattoos. They had scars in all these designs all over them. So when they smiled and they had all these scars all over them, I mean, that stops you cold. And I started realizing, like, whoa, they're way more important than them guys over there waving their clipboards at me. I better stop right now and do what these guys want me to do. And what it was just touch the women and then the men. And then when we were all done, I was standing there by myself, and they all had won off, and it was dark already. It took a couple of hours to do that. It was dark. They had this campfire going. They're all dancing, and they were doing a weird thing where the chief would stand there with his hand up like this, and then he would go like that, and all the kids would get up and dance around the fire, ooh, yeah, yeah, yeah. And they would dance all around, and they would sit down, and he would be standing there with his hand up, and they would go like that, and then the women would go around. So I went over there, and I was dancing with them, and then the guys caught up with me with the clipboards, and they dragged me over to the van, and they put me we got in the van, and they said, you messed up. You messed up our itinerary. Like, we weren't supposed to be here that long. And they couldn't get away from the fire right away either, because everybody was happy and they wanted us to stay. So that made it even longer. But by the time we all got in the van, they were livid. And the guy that was in charge, he was really ticked, man. I mean, that guy, I think he wanted to cuss at me, but he was holding himself back because he's the top preacher. He was the top preacher of that thing. And he was telling me that better not happen again ever. And I was trying to tell him, like, well, where were you guys? Like, what happened? Like, wouldn't that be your job to do this? I don't even know what happened. Like, tell me, please explain to me what happened just now. And they didn't want to talk about it. That wasn't in the plan. Just don't do it again. And I was like, all right, whatever. A week later, I get up. I hear, vrr. I'm like, what? Like, no. I start talking out loud to God, like, no, no, no. And it would do it again, like, no, I'm not doing it. These guys, tell your guys. I mean, these guys work for you, right? They work for you all the time, work for you. Like, tell them to do it, because they don't like it when I do that, and I don't know what I'm doing, and I just know I'm not doing it. So all day I'm talking to God, no, I'm not doing it. And it was doing the same course. Everything was going the same way, faster, more intense. It was like, oh my God, I don't know what. Stop. I'm not going to do it. I swear, when something happens, I'm not going to do it. I won't do it. I promise I'm not going to do it. I didn't hear any voices or anything. Nothing told me to keep going. So we get to this village, and we get there 11:30 in the morning, and I break out all my equipment. Everything's still, I feel the energy pulsing through me, and it's off the hook. And I'm thinking, I'm looking around, I don't see anything really. This time there's like 400 and something villagers. It's twice as big of a village and farm. And it took 5 hours to probably videotape everything and do all the interviews and have the interpreters and everybody doing their thing. When they got done, they were going, the guys went on a tour, and we were going to spend the night. They decided not to spend the night, though. They had a hotel somewhere. I thought we were going to spend the night in that one, but they said no, we're going to go to a hotel. And it was like, I thought, yes, because when I was going in those grass huts, I didn't want to sleep there. I absolutely, dirt floors, round dirt, mud with thatched grass. I mean, like, I wasn't having that. And so I get done, and I'm putting everything away. I close the van, back of the van. I pull out a handful of Reese's peanut butter cups and a bottle of water. It's hotter than blazes. I'm soaking wet, and I eat a couple of these peanut butter cups, and about 6 kids come up, and I give them all a peanut butter cup. And they open up the peanut butter cup, and they take one little teeny tiny morsel, a little teeny piece. I didn't know you could get a crumb off of it. And they put it in their mouth. Their eyes get all big. And what's really weird is they're the chocolate capital of the world, and they don't even know what chocolate tastes like. Can you believe that? That's where the highest, more chocolate comes out of there than anywhere, and they don't even know what it is. But anyways, they run off, and there's a bunch of kids over there, and they break up these little pieces of little mini peanut butter cups, and they break it up on everybody, and then I see all of them get their little piece and they run off and disappear. And I'm thinking, whoa. And I'm thinking, when they come back out, no kid. Now I was expecting them all to come back and say, more, 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 like here. If you do that at my house, you're gonna be hounded until the bag's gone, right? All little kids are gonna be like, more, more, one more, one more, And they didn't do that. I didn't see them again. About that time, two little boys come walking around the van. They didn't even get a little morsel. But one of the little boys, his legs didn't work, and he had hand carved crutches, and it looked like they had rags wrapped over the part that goes under your arm. I mean, they were handmade, and his legs were dangling. There was no muscle whatsoever. It was just bones and skin hanging down. And when he stopped, he would balance himself on his toes and these crutches. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to pray for that little boy. I mean, I forgot about everything that happened like a idiot. I'm going to go lay my hands on the little boy, ask God to heal that little boy, because I'm thinking, oh my God, what happened to that little boy? And he's alive. I can't believe it. I heard, since the little girl, I had heard that 50%, over half the kids die just from drinking the water before they're 5. And he looked like he was around 8 or 9. He might have been a little bit older because he was malnutrition. I couldn't tell. But I was like, oh my God, I have to help this little boy. At least pray for him. And then I'm going to give him the whole bag I'm going to give that little boy the whole bag of candy. And the same thing happened. I walked up to him, and I was just going to do a quick down and dirty prayer, and I didn't even touch him. He went flying. His crutches went flying. Everything happened the same. All of a sudden, everybody's rushing me. I was surrounded. It took 4 or 5 hours to touch everybody. And man, were those preachers mad. It happened one more time. And after the second time, they put a guard. One of the preachers always had to be with me to make sure it didn't happen. And one day, probably 6 days later, we're all out at this other village that we were spending the night in this time. And he's standing right next to me, and we're eating beef jerky and Reese's peanut butter cups. And this little kid comes up, and I'm like, oh man, look, oh my God, I go, let's pray for that little kid. He's like, okay. And I walked over and raised my hand up, and bam, the kid went flying right in front of him. And they couldn't stop it even when they were with me. But I always wondered, why didn't God use those guys? They're the guys, not me. I have no idea. But it was quite a trip. Quite a trip.
Why did you go there in the first place, Alan? What took you to Africa?
I was hired to document. I owned a video production company, a TV station, and I also had a studio with 3 big giant cameras with lights and big boards. I mean, I had everything, about $500,000 of equipment. And then I had a lot of what they call ENG equipment, electronic news gathering, which you carry on your shoulder with tape decks. And so I could go out and do TV shoots out, remotes, all kinds of different stuff. And they hired me to go over there and document where they spent, I guess they sent like $357,000 over there that year, that actual church. And They wanted to see how the money was spent, whether it got bought, was it helping, and what happened really was 15% actually made it. How it turned out, 15% actually made it to the actual people. The rest of it was all tariffed. And now I understand when Trump starts talking about tariffs that we're getting shafted. We're getting shafted. And I'm glad he's doing something about it, because those guys were getting shafted because it was American dollars, right? American dollars. And you could buy 157 of their dollars with $1. So they were getting ripped. But that's why I went. That's what I was doing. And it was amazing, amazing. But why didn't God use them other guys? That's the only thing I don't understand.
Well, honestly, probably because they probably weren't in the right mindset or didn't have the right spirit to do the job. And God's not going to put someone in charge of doing something like that that's not going to give him the honor and do it properly and justly and, not for money and this and that. And not many people can do that. You have to be very humble to do that. Maybe those guys weren't humble.
Oh, no, they definitely weren't that. They all had egos, big ones, because they had big churches,
Yeah, that's probably why. I mean, I speak of Africa. I used to work with a guy, a black gentleman. His name is Willie Richards, and Willie he worked with me, but he was also, a full-time preacher. And he used to go to Africa every year and do missionary work there. And he'd take his wife, and his wife is, really cool too. Her name was Sapphire, and it was Willie and Sapphire. And when he knew, I told him about some of the things that were going on in my life at the time, and he says, "Oh yeah, I believe in all that stuff." And I says, "Why?" And he goes, "Because anytime you go to Africa," he said, "you should see what you see in Africa."
Right.
And I said, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Well, it's not like here. It's just like for whatever reason, like evil kind of runs free in Africa." And it's funny because I've heard people say that, America, although it's eroding, is under kind of a protection because we're, at one point in time, we were a God-centered country. And he told me, yeah, they're not really a God-centered country, and you should see what goes on there. And he told me about voices that would come from the forest and orbs. I didn't, no one was talking about this kind of stuff. I'm talking about the early 80s,
Mm-hmm.
And this guy was telling me how orbs would chase people in the village, and the orbs would talk to them, and he'd seen possessed, people, and he'd, other people deliver these guys, and he had all kinds of tell me about Africa, and he was constantly asking me, "Man, go with me, go with me." And I now, of course, wish I would have done it, at the time. Like, no way, I'm still a victim of this stuff. I certainly don't want to go to a country that's, rampant. Who knows what would have happened to me at the time. I wasn't really prepared to, today I wouldn't mind it, but, back in the day, I think it would have been disastrous had I gone. But
well, the voodoo
I know what you mean
over there, man, the voodoo is off the hook over there. And they're afraid of the voodoo guys. They run the villages and stuff like that. The voodoo, I don't know even what they call them, witch doctors. I don't know. I didn't speak their language, but who that guy was. When you went in the village, he came and checked you out first.
He probably didn't like you at all.
No, not normally. That guy didn't like me. In fact, we went to a beach, and all the beaches are called Pleasure Beach because clothes were optional. And there was one that was KLM Airlines had built a resort on the beach. And a lot of times the plane would come in, and like the one we were on, it came in and it wasn't leaving until we were leaving. So those people were having a 35-day vacation. And they're all laying out on the beach and everything. Well, we came out of the bush, and we were finally coming to where there was water and electricity and stuff like that. Only we were driving by the beach, and I told them I had dust on me that was a week and a half old. and I wanted to get just rinsed off. And I told him, stop at the beach. I'm going to go run and get in the water and just rinse off. And then when I get to the hotel, I'll have something to eat, and then I'll take a shower, and it'll be an air-conditioned room, and I will not come out of that room until the next day. I'll turn that air on till it's cold, go have dinner, come back, and I'm not coming out. I'll have a shower, and then I won't be sweaty or anything. I'll just be nice and cool all night. That was the plan. But he pulled over at the beach, and I got out, and I took my shirt off, and I was just going to go down to my skivvies and go get in the water. But everybody else wasn't wearing clothes, but nobody was in the water. I didn't really notice that part. I was making a beeline to the water. And the closer I got to the water, I started hearing everybody yelling at me. And then I heard some shots fired, and that stopped me, like, whoa, And I turned around and I realized that they were after me. They were coming after me. And I stopped right there, and I'm like, what, like, what am I doing wrong? And the guy said, don't touch the water. I'm like, what? He's like, don't touch the water. I go, I'm just going to go in and rinse off. And I started to go, I'm just going to rinse off just really fast. And he's like, if you make one more step, he's going to shoot you. I'm like, what? He goes, we'll shoot you. I'm like, why? I turn around like, why? Why are you going to shoot me? Like, what's wrong with the water? Like, why can't I get in it? It's an ocean. I mean, come on, dude. And he said, it's Tuesday. Nobody goes in the water on Tuesday because the voodoo guy or witch or whatever they are put a curse on the water on Tuesday. And if anyone touches the water on Tuesday, all the fish will go away for a whole season, and everybody will starve to death if I do that. And I told him, you believe that? And they were dead serious. I mean, they didn't say yes or no. They just stared at me like, go ahead and go and get in the water. I was like, okay. I go, what about tomorrow? He goes, tomorrow's Wednesday. You could get in the water. And I'm like, okay. And I went to the hotel and had a shower. But yeah, they run everything over there. The voodoo thing runs everything. And they have rules on everything. And you go by those rules or you die. They'll shoot you right there. And so I learned real quick, don't piss off the voodoo guy, he'll have you for lunch, and I was, I make good lunch. You know what I mean? I'm a big guy. Yeah. So are you still there, Chris?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Got quiet. I thought maybe I lost you.
No, heck no. You can't get rid of me that easy.
Yeah, well, sorry about taking over there for a minute. But,
No. That's a great story. I've never heard it in that detail before. And, what an affirming experience, to come back and be able to share that, the laying hands on people, would be, so effective for so many little kids.
Yeah, and it would be nice if there was people going over there just to do that instead of like they go and really what they should do. We have well technology and solar technology and stuff. People should be going over there and setting this stuff up because they don't have anything. And that's one of the things that made me so mad about that country. Their exports, gold. They had a lot of gold, chocolate, and diamonds. A very rich country. And the Dutch and the French and the Americans and the Germans, they all owned everything. The Spaniards, all these big companies. And you drive by and see these big old huge giant mines and things, factories and stuff like that. And they were paying them $50 a month of their money, $50 of their money a month. That was their wage. and I could cash in a $20 bill and have a year's worth of money. It was ridiculous. I mean, it made me so mad that our companies, even American ones, and it didn't matter really, all these countries, Britain and Spain and France and Dutch and America, they don't put nothing back. They go in there and take the very best of the best, gold, diamonds, and all that, and then they don't put anything back. These people live in squalor, and they don't have to. If they were selling their own diamonds and gold, they would be rich. But the rich people were actually living in Holland or, and over here and stuff like that. It made me so mad. I was so mad, but it was a real eye opener on that.
Yeah, most companies are super greedy. My former career was Mattel Toys, and I traveled the world, including Asia several times, China, Malaysia, different places, and it was always the same, that they would treat their factory workers poorly and pay them poorly, and it was like labor, and I was shocked, embarrassed. But the first time I took a tour of a Barbie factory, in a Hot Wheels factory in China, it was just horrible. It made me embarrassed to be a part of it.
Yeah, and the same thing. I probably should finish the story too, that, because there's one more thing, and I know they're gonna think I'm crazy after I tell this one, but it was the culmination of the trip, and it was the very last night, and we were in a big room, and there was probably 800, 900, maybe 1,000 people in there. It was a big room, and it was in the main city. A little over 1 million people in the city. In most of the city, they had electricity. A lot of it didn't have sewers, but they had running water. And we went in that room, and then one of the things the churches do to hook people, and that's what I call it anyways, or create a draw, is they play music. And the people will come to hear the music, and then so they don't get the music until after the preaching. So everybody has to sit and listen to the preaching, and then after the preaching they have a concert. So I'm with my guard. I'm in a corner like I am right here, sitting in a corner, and they have a table in front of me. They have all the musical instruments in front of me. I've been on guard ever since the deals in the villages, and the main guy that always was with me was sitting next to me, and they stacked everything up in front of me, and I didn't really want anything to happen anyways. There was the last night. It was like, you know what? I wasn't feeling any kind of pulse or anything like that. No energy flowing through me or nothing. I thought it was just going to be a quick, easy night, So they do the preaching, and then before they start the music, they say they're going to pray for people. Now, this is the first time I've seen them do that. I've seen them when we first got out there. They prayed for the church people. When we go into church, every church that we went to, they had started there, they would pray for the leaders, and that's all I ever saw them do. But this time they had a prayer line where after they finished preaching, they were going to pray for healings and whatever anybody needed, and everybody could get in a line, and it wrapped around the whole room, and it was big. And I just watched. They didn't ask me to help them or anything, and I just watched. And they were down to 3 people left to be prayed for in the line, and this lady came in carrying this little boy, and she sat down right in the front row, and this little boy was laying in her lap, and the interpreter, she was talking to the interpreter, and then the interpreter would speak over the microphone and say the little boy is demon possessed. That's what they were saying. And I was looking at the little boy, and he was just like laying there staring off into space, never blinking, didn't move, just was like, and I was like, oh man, that is so sad. And I thought, the God I was dealing with all this whole trip, I didn't have to touch him or anything. I didn't touch none of the little kids first. They went flying before I even touched them. So I had the idea that all I had to do was just aim my hand over there and God could do something with them, So that's what I did when I just prayed like that, and then I was done. And sitting there watching these preachers take turns grabbing, they would walk up and grab the kid's forehead like this and command the demon out in Jesus' name and go. They were almost dramatically, it was almost too dramatic for me. And they were doing that, and nothing happened. And I was that got me upset a little bit. Something happened. I never knew after what happened to the kids, because I never saw him again, but I know something happened to him. But there was nothing happening to this kid, and they all took their turn. And then the main dude that always was like this close to cussing me out all the time, he comes over and says, hey, so you want to crack at this one? Well, just like that, I'm like, I looked at him, and I thought, sure, why not? He didn't do anything. I mean, the kid was totally docile. I mean, he was staring off into space. He didn't never look anyone in the eye. He was just like looking off into space. He didn't even budge. Like, sure, I'll go pray for that one. What the heck? And I jumped over the table they had, like it was going to keep me there in the beginning anyways. And I kind of jumped over it on purpose to show them that their little barricade thing didn't mean anything to me. But it was like the last thing to, show off on them dudes. Like, yeah, watch this. Choop, over. Well, I get over there and I'm walking up to him and I realize there's something different all of a sudden. He's staring at me. And he didn't even look at the other guys. And now he is intently looking at me. And he's glaring at me. And I'm thinking, what the heck? And I look back over at those guys, and they're all smiling like they think this is going to be good, So I'm thinking, well, I'm going to get this over with really fast. I'm just going to do what they did. I'm just going to walk up and grab this forehead in the name of Jesus. Demon, get out of him, and then amen, and then I'm going to go back to my seat. So I get over there, and I reach out my hand like that, and he goes to grab me, and he growls at me, and he bares his teeth at me, and I'm like, whoa, and I jump back, and I look back over at those guys, and all of them were standing there with their eyes all, and their jaws on the drawer, on the floor, and their big old eyes, and they were shocked as I was that something happened. And it actually scared me. That scared me bad. I mean, it gave me like a good scare. All of a sudden, though, it started like in the bottom of my feet. I felt like an anger come over me of this, not the kid, but the demon that was in the kid. Like, he cannot have the kid. Like, this is not happening today, not on my watch. This thing is going to let go of this kid. So I go over there and I'm trying to grab his forehead and he's fighting me off. He's trying to bite me and scratch me, and I'm getting more persistent and more mad. And I finally devise a plan that I'm going to fake him out with one hand, and while he's going after that hand, I'm going to grab him with the other hand on the forehead. And it worked. And I had him. But man, that ticked him off bad. And he rolled out of her lap and fell on the floor. And I went down with him. And I still had him by the forehead. And we were rolling around on the ground. And he was knocking over chairs. And he was like lashing out. and screaming and growling, and oh man, it was still kind of a little bit scaring me, but I was still mad. And I said what I had to say, and then I jumped back like some kind of rodeo guy, you know what I mean? Like beep, that kind of thing. I mean, that's what after I did it and I'm standing there looking at the kid, that's what I thought was like, I just did it like a rodeo. But and the kid went nuts. He was like rolling all over. He was trying to, anybody that got near him, he was trying to bite or scratch. And as I walked back to my chair really quickly, I didn't jump over the table to get to my chair, but I walked by these guys and they all just were staring at me like, whoa, and I sat down on the chair and I didn't know what to think. And finally, it took 3 people to take control of this kid, and they carried him out, and he was screaming all the way out. You could hear him screaming outside. I mean, he was screaming all the way out. And then they said it's a good time for music, and they broke out the drums and the guitars and the bongos and the shakers and all this stuff, and they started doing their concert. And I was sitting there and I got mad. I all of a sudden I was mad at God. And I was like, what was that? What was that, God? What was that? What in the world? Were you playing games with me? Like you kept me in trouble with these dudes the whole trip almost. I have a guard on me. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what I'm doing. These guys are the ones that's supposed to be doing it, not me. And now this demon thing, like, how come the demon didn't come out of him? I mean, if you're going to put me all the way across the world and put me in these situations, at least get the demon out of the kid. I'm not going to do it anymore. You don't ask me for anything because I'm not going to do it. If you can't get the demon out of the little kid, then don't ask me anymore. I mean, I'm done with all this trouble, and it's been nothing but trouble. And about that time, my ears went deaf, completely deaf, and it shut me up. I mean, like that quick, I shut up, and I couldn't hear a thing. I couldn't hear the drums. I couldn't hear the people singing, and I couldn't hear anything. And I was looking around, and it was dead silence. And the first thought that came to my mind was, oh my God, I think I overdid it. I think I said too much. I mean, maybe I shouldn't have said that to God like that. So then I started apologizing, and I apologized, and my hearing was still gone, and I apologized as much as I could, and I was crying. I mean, it really, like, I started realizing after 20 or 30 minutes, I might be deaf for the rest of my life. I mean, I was starting to come to that. And then I started thinking like, oh my God, how am I going to explain this to my wife? I'm going to be deaf forever. And then I just sat there and I was just staring at the ground. I didn't have any more I'm sorries in me or nothing. I was like pretty much resolving myself to be deaf because I started really figuring I really overstepped it, and I should have not yelled at God at all. I should have just held my tongue. And then all out of the blue, I hear a voice, and it's pretty loud, and it's almost like a Sasquatch voice in that it was rattling the insides of me, vibrating the inside of my chest. And I looked around to see if anybody else heard it because it was that loud. But nobody was reacting. Like with Sasquatch, when one goes off and it rattles your insides, it gets everybody's attention and they're all looking in the same direction. But this time, nobody's really reacting. And I'm thinking, whoa, And then he starts telling me that about what he was telling me when he took me out into space, that it's his timing, his way, not my way. I got to get used to this thing that he could use you whenever he wants to use you, and you have to have faith and all this stuff, and you can't uh, you can't go by what you think should happen. It's what he already is making happen. And then he told me that 5 years ago, he told one of the pastors of the church that the little boy was going to get healed, but he was going to get healed gradually. And a white man was going to come pray for him, and he would gradually get healed. And I was like, oh man, I really blew it, and I started apologizing again, like, I am so sorry, like, I don't know who I think I am, really, that I didn't mean to be so rude to you, and I had no idea, and I'm really, really sorry, and I'll remember that. And then I was sitting there, and everything was done, and I was still deaf. And I was sitting there thinking, wow, he's still going to keep me deaf. And I probably sat there another 10, 15, 20 minutes deaf. And then all of a sudden my ears popped real loud, like pop. And all the sound that was in that room hit me like a wall, like bam. And it almost knocked me out of my chair. Just so much noise, singing and drumming, and I mean, it was off the hook loud to me. And then I got so happy, I just sat there and cried because I had my hearing back. So about an hour later, they call the thing done. We go back to the hotel. I'm still kind of freaking out. Everybody's like, well, go take a shower and come back down, and we'll meet in the lobby, and we'll go to dinner. And I'm thinking, I'm sweaty. It's 11 o'clock at night. It's 120 easy. It's 90% humidity. There's mosquitoes in a big swarm over in the corner flying around. And I'm going to go turn the air on in my room. I'll meet you back in the lobby, but after I take a shower, I'm not coming out of my room to get all sweaty again. So I go turn the air on. I come back in. I sit down on the couch. The pastor of that big church or room that we were at was sitting there, catty-corny from me. And I sat down by this lady, and all of a sudden the guy goes, God told you something, and I want to know what it is. And I was looking at him like, what? He's like, God told you something, and I want to know what it is. And I'm thinking, oh my God, like, does he really want to know? Does he really want to know? I'm like, all right. God told me the little boy was going to be healed, but it was going to be gradually healed. As soon as I said that, the lady that was next to me jumped up, started running around the room, screaming and waving her hands and crying and everything. And I'm like, who's she? He goes, you don't recognize her? I'm like, no. He goes, that's the mom. She was holding the little boy. I was like, oh, I never really looked at the lady. I always was looking at that little boy ready to bite me and get me, So then she sits back down, and she doesn't speak English. So she's telling the pastor to tell me something. And she said that when they took him out, they took him home. When he got home, for his whole life up until that night, he never made eye contact with anyone in his life. Ever. He never made eye contact with anyone. Ever. That was the first night that he ever made eye contact with anyone. And I was the first one that he ever made eye contact with. Then I was sitting there going, whoa. Then she said that he could not eat or chew his food. They had to force feed him his whole life. Well, tonight, he's actually making eye contact with his sisters, and he's chewing his food and swallowing it. And he was getting better gradually. And she got all excited again and jumped up and started screaming and dancing around. And I got up and screamed and danced with her until those guys came down. I was partying with her all around the room. It was amazing that what he said to me in that room when I was deaf actually really was happening. and the pastor was actually the one he told. And oh man, I mean, like, wow, it was a trip. And then I came home and I never forgot that. And I mean, I've never forgot that. And I am way more closer to God probably than a lot of people because of that. Because it would be very hard to prove to me there's no God. It would be very hard to prove to me there's no voodoo as well.
No, God got your.
Go ahead, man.
No, I said God got your attention, right?
Oh, definitely got my attention. Way.
Yeah, that was like my. I know I've told you the story before about when I was 17 or 18, my surfing story when I had that miraculous event, and you know, I've always wished that more people can experience something like that. Because it makes it pretty easy to, you know, be a believer when you've had something like that happen to you, you know. And certain people look at me, you know, I've told that story to several people, and they look at me like I'm crazy, you know. But those people that have had such experiences, like what you had in Africa, and some of my experiences, and what I had surfing, you know, and as you were telling the story when you talked about going deaf, I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm like, at that point you were at like your rock bottom because you were angry, you were faithless, and when I was stuck out, you know, getting drug out to sea, you know, so, you know, on my surfboard, I couldn't paddle anymore, and at that point in time, I was at the weakest I think I've ever been as a human being, and I basically prayed out.
You should go ahead and tell that story for everybody, because that's a good story, man. Pretty good.
Yeah, well, it was about I'm dating myself here, but about 1979, 78, 79, I was like 17, 18 years old, and I went on this surfing trip with a church youth group. My best buddy, Tom, he belonged to this Lutheran church, and I surfed with all these guys, and to be honest with you, I started hanging out with them because it was a good way to meet girls, and they had a cool youth group that surfed in camp. You know, so we were going to San Diego, California for like this youth seminar thing for a few, like 4 or 5 days. And so me being the smart aleck I am, I told all my buddies, hey, let's all bring our surfboards and we can find some new surf down there. It'll be, you know, we can make an appearance and then kind of sneak out at the end of the day and go catch some waves, you know. So we sent one kid as a scout, you know, and I took all our boards down there. We did it ourselves. We didn't go on the bus, everybody. So we get to this place near San Diego called Sunset Cliffs. And it's this big cliff overlooking the ocean. And so we started getting ready, and we started getting our surfboards out and putting our wetsuits on. And there were these guys sitting on the cliff, and they're like, oh, you go out? And we're like, yeah, why? And they said, oh, it's really huge out there, you know, be careful. And we're like, yeah, okay, you know, we're all pretty good surfers, you know. And so we walked down the cliff, and you have to kind of walk down these steps that are carved in the cliff, and then there's this little cove, and you have to wait for water to rush in and then be kind of flush out of this cove, jump out in the white water and paddle out, you know, to get away from the cliff. So I paddled out. We all paddled out, and there were some inshore waves, and even the inshore waves, the faces on them were like 10 feet. And so we crawled over those, and then there was like a quarter of a mile at least, if not more, of flat water where nothing was happening. Nothing was very, it was like a lake. And then way outside, we saw some bigger waves, and so it was kind of foggy. It was around Christmas season, and so I'm paddling out, and all of a sudden through the fog, I see this big wall, you know, of water come up, and it's got to be 20, 30 feet at least, you know, at least 3 stories tall. I'm like, holy, you know what? I'm not used to surfing these big waves. So I scratch and I go over the first one, and I look, and here comes another one. And so this happens a few times, and I finally get way out there in the zone. Well, I'm out there in the zone, and me and my buddies instantly get separated. We're at least 100 yards apart each. And a few sets go by, and I'm pretty scared to take off. And so I let a couple sets go by, and finally I said, okay, don't be so chicken. The next set that comes, man, you're going to take wave number 2, whether you want to or not. And so I talked myself into it. So the first wave came, I let it pass. The second wave, I spun, I started paddling. The wind was so powerful offshore, it was like I got hung up to the top, and all of a sudden I did this big, huge drop, and I did a bottom turn. When I went back up to face the wave, I realized it wasn't like a big, hollow, Hawaiian-style giant wave. It was big, but it was kind of crumbly, like an easy-to-ride wave. And so I rode this big 30-foot wave, and so when I kicked out at the end, I was like super happy. I'm like, wow, that's the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. So I went out and I surfed a few, maybe 7, 8 waves. And since it was Christmas time, it was starting to get dark. And I'd just taken a wave, so I was in this middle zone I told you about that was kind of like a lake, And I said, man, I better get in, because I looked at the shoreline. I didn't recognize the shore. I couldn't see where I'd come in out of the water or anything, and all I saw was cliff. It's not like a regular beach. It's this giant cliff. And so for every 5 feet that I paddled forward, the undertow was pushing me back 10 feet. And I sat on my board for a second, and I looked at the cliff, and I was rapidly being drugged to the south and out to sea. So I was in San Diego, so I'm headed toward Mexico and out to sea. And I tried paddling a few times, and I went through all these emotions, like I was angry. Then I started cussing. That didn't work. I, just said, okay, concentrate and just paddle. You can paddle through it. If you stop paddling, the undertow will bring you eventually back to the beach, like most of them. This was not an ordinary rip current. I was literally getting pushed out to sea at a fast pace. It was getting dark. The fog was rolling in. It just kept getting worse. I couldn't see anybody anymore. I was totally alone. So then I started thinking about sharks, so I bring my feet up on the top of the board, and I just put my head down, and I at first I felt like I was wanted to cry, and there was no one around, and I could have cried, but I didn't. And suddenly I just thought to myself, this is it. You're going to die. You're either going to get drowned, you're going to get eaten by a shark or something, but unless your friends are smart enough to send the Coast Guard, So anyway, I'm getting pulled out to sea, and I couldn't think to do anything else. So I said out loud, God, if you want me to live, you're going to have to help me, because I can't do this on my own. I don't have, exactly. Biff just said it perfectly. Denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And so I was at the acceptance point, and I said, God, I'm okay dying today, but if you want me to live, you're going to have to help me, because I can't do this on my own. And then I did start to sob, because I started thinking about my parents, my friends, I felt like I was disappointing everybody. And then all of a sudden the water, and here's where the whole rest of my story is going to get really weird, but the water kind of vibrated around me, and I looked behind me, and if you could picture a clear bowl, tipped up on its side, like it's, coming toward you, the open side towards you, like a bubble, so to speak. And so this thing, it was made of water. It was about 2 to 3 feet thick. It was really thick, but it was made of water, and it was perfect. It wasn't a wave. It was a half of a crystal bowl. It's the only way I could describe it. And it started pushing me. So as it started pushing me, I almost fainted, because it would be like, one of us right now sprouting wings and flying around the room. You'd just about faint. And so I'm encased in this thing, and I'm looking out the front of it, and I'm like, what the heck is this? And it's pushing me at a pretty fast pace. And this is a long time, because you guys don't understand. I mean, I'm way out to sea at this point. So after about 30 seconds, I kind of calmed down a little bit, thinking, okay, I don't know what this is. And I still was thinking, okay, this is weird, but I don't know if it's paranormal or what. All of a sudden, here's where it got even weirder, because as it was pushing me toward the shore, it started pushing me to the left, like north. So it was pushing me against the current now. And I'm like, this is impossible. And I like freaked out all over again. And it was taking me in this stair step, fashion, up, left, if you could imagine. And then all of a sudden it was doing this stair step deal. And then all of a sudden it took off, like it doubled in speed up to about 40 miles an hour. And I was really close to the shore, and all of a sudden it dissolved as it turned into turned into water drops. So this whole thing just collapsed around me and drenched me. And I looked up, and as I sit here, I'm getting goosebumps. 5 feet away was the steps that I came in on. So it gets even weirder. So I jump off my board, I swim to the steps, I get up the steps, and I walk up. Of course, all my friends have long since dressed, and it's almost dark. And my friend Tom, I told you about, he's standing there smoking a cigarette. He looks at me, he goes, "How did you get in?" And I said, "What do you mean? How did I get in?" And he says, "We've been staring out here because we thought you drowned. How did you get in?" He said, "You just appeared on the steps as if by magic." And I said, "I don't know what you're talking about," because I was in like shock at this point. He's like, "Dude, you just popped onto the stairs. We didn't see you. There's no way you can get around. We're looking down into the water on a cliff." And I just kept denying it because I knew that they wouldn't believe me. I'd told paranormal stuff to people before, and I was a laughing stock. So there was no way I was going to tell them the story. And so from that point on, I knew for a fact, like Alan knew for a fact after that Africa thing, there was no doubting it. So at that point in time, I became a believer. And then in the coming like years, I started having like survivor's remorse, because when I saw, people dying in the news and everything, I didn't have I was an 18-year-old punk, and I'm like, "God, why?" And I talked to God. I says, "God, why did you save me? But I see kids every day dying in car wrecks, and good people, dying and, too young. And why me? Why me? Why me? Why me?" And I never understood why me until maybe 10 years ago, when I really figured out how to battle these evil entities, and I've helped a lot of people, and I've gotten rid of a lot of these things for people. And I thought maybe that's my purpose, and maybe that's what God's use for me is to, spread his gospel and help his people so they don't have to be a victim like I was. Maybe it was to have my child. Maybe it was to meet my wife. Maybe it was to meet Alan Thomas and all you people. Who knows? But I don't even question anymore. I just gave myself up and said, "Look, you do with me what you want, and if I'll go with wherever you're going to lead me." And so from that point on, I knew for a fact God saved my life then. And I've been forever thankful for, people think I'm joking. I tell them every day my feet hit the floor, it's a blessing and a thanks to God for one more day. This may be my last day, or I may have, 40 more years of days. Who knows? It's up to God, God willing. But I'm going to try to live every day the way I think God would want me to live today. And even at the risk of making me sound ridiculous or dumb or, I don't care, because I'm like you, Al. I have no problem expressing myself or being open with people, because I'm not a believer. I'm a knower.
Right.
You're a Sasquatch knower because you've seen one numerous times. I'm a believer. I believe they exist, but I've never seen one. So I'm in the 98% club. I'm 98% sure they exist because I've got honest friends and I've seen good evidence. But until I see one, I've got to be in the 98 club. I can't be in the 100 club. And I understand, and for that reason, I understand when people look at me like I'm crazy when I tell them these stories. And it doesn't bother me. I swear, I don't get offended, because I know they sound weird.
Yeah.
But
I get that all the time too. But you know what? I don't care at all. And like when you were saying, like the reason, like if like right now I'm getting ready to turn 60. when I got hurt, I was 40, 41, and died and then came back. But if that wouldn't have happened, I wouldn't be here right here doing this. I would be in Vegas somewhere running 5 casinos marketing. I mean, I would definitely not be here. My whole life would be totally different. That changed my life. As much as Bigfoot changed my life and seeing Bigfoot, so did dying on the table and coming back disabled. I am actually relishing this life, even though the other one was more money and things and stuff like that. This one's more substantial, like friends and stuff like that. I get to help more people. I have more time. I didn't have time before. I understand completely what you're saying when you say, like today for me, every day is a present, right? Like a present, like you get a present, but it's also the present. So live in the present. It's a present to you to live today. So it's a present. Live in the present. Every day, live in the present. Because you never know, and tomorrow's might not show up, for you. I mean, everything could change in like 2 seconds. You know what I mean?
Okay, I got rear-ended a couple of weeks ago, and it was a minor accident in the big scheme of things. But, I've seen people getting killed from being rear-ended at, super high rate of speed, and you never know. Just driving in your car. I mean, my wife had a friend who got off work. He was working graveyard, and he got off at like 11 or 12, and he was at a stoplight minding his own business, and there was a girl who had a fight with her boyfriend. She was drunk. She took the boyfriend's truck and hit this guy. Was at a dead stop. She hit him going over 100 miles an hour and killed him instantly.
Yeah.
And of course, she walked away with minor injuries. And, but that guy was just minding his own business, getting off work and wanting to go home, and his life was over.
Yeah, it could be it could be anything though. Like my one of my best friends, we grew up reloading and shooting and hunting, and his mom worked at the IRS. And one day she stood up and said, I can't see, and then fell over dead. Had an aneurysm in her brain. I mean, it could be anything. You know what I mean? Like anything. It could be anything.
It's funny how God works, because I had this really good friend that we worked together in a group at Mattel when I was there. Our group got disbanded, so he went one way. I ended up taking over this big department that I ended up running for 10 years. So he and I lost touch for a couple of years, and we said hi and bye, but we weren't as close as we were because we weren't working together every day. So just out of the blue, on a Friday, he came by my office. He came to my office, and we spent about an hour and a half just catching up. The nicest guy you ever want to meet, Asian guy. His name is Makoto. One of the nicest guys you ever want to meet in your life. And we caught up, and we updated each other on what's been going on and this and that. And I had created a safety program for the machine shop and for the entire company. And I used to have to do these safety refresher courses. And so that following Monday, I was doing one, and he came to me and said, I'm not feeling that great, but I know I've got your safety class. And I said, hey, Makoto, just scan it. I'll say you were there. Don't worry about it. I'll write you in. No big deal. And he said, no, I better go. So I saw him at the class and said hi and bye to him. And the next day I came into work on that Tuesday, and everybody's standing around crying. And I'm like, what's going on? And they're like, you didn't hear what happened? And I said, what do you mean? And he said, Makoto's dead. And I go, what happened? And he said he had a headache yesterday, didn't feel good. I said, yeah, I talked to him yesterday at 2 o'clock. Like, yeah, he went home. He had a roommate, and his roommate saw him laying on the couch at about 9 o'clock, watch TV. The roommate went to bed. The roommate woke up about 2 in the morning, and the TV was still on. He went to wake him up, and they couldn't wake him up. He was dead. He had an aneurysm.
Yeah.
About 2 years old, perfect health. So, like you say, you never know.
You don't know, yeah. And that's what trips me out when people I used to be like working out bodybuilder and, weapons. I loved martial arts and weapons and stuff like that. So everything weapons. And I always was like getting in shape, and I would tell people, I was adding years to my life or whatever. You don't know that. You know what I mean? You have no idea. I've had friends that I worked out with, and they were healthy as a bull. I mean, like they didn't smoke, they didn't drink, they didn't cuss. They were just healthy, and they did it because they were going to have a long life, and they're already gone. Their heart stopped, and like there's no guarantees. I'm gonna tell you right now, there's none, and we don't know why. I don't know why. All I know is we'll know when we go to the other side. Then we get to know everything. That's when we do. I wonder if when we're dreaming, if we're tapping into that other side. That was something I wanted to bring up.
Let me ask everyone in the group and you, Alan, a dumb question.
Mm-hmm.
When you dream, do you ever wonder who the other people are?
Sometimes I if you lined them up right now, I would know who they are, even if I don't know them. In some of those dreams, I would recognize them to this day in a lineup.
The guy that went.
I still don't know who they are.
Yeah, the guy the Antichrist guy that went from the Panther to the guy.
Mm-hmm.
I could totally pick him out of a lineup. The guy that was screwing around with the one I told you about on my way to work today about the whole sexual deviation of the country and all of that guy, pick him out of a lineup easy. But there's like strangers and background people, and it's just really funny that I always wonder, who are these people, and do they see me and say, who is that guy?
Probably. I think that happens. I do. I bet you they could pick you out of a lineup, probably.
Maybe that's a deja vu, and when you see someone, you say, man, I know that guy from somewhere. It could be someone that appeared in your dream somehow. Who knows,
Yeah, well, that's what I mean. Like, when we dream, are we tapping into, is like when we're in the REM, and sometimes not in the REM, sometimes, walking around and we go into like a vortex or a aberration of time, space. Are we getting into that other realm that we don't see? That, I don't know. I'm maybe getting way too far off, but I sometimes I think that the dreams are so real that we're in a time space warp kind of thing. Seeing the future and stuff like that, and I don't understand it all, but only I believe that happens.
Well, it has to be something to it, because like I said, I've had dreams that they are identical. I mean, truthful in right down to every word someone says, what they're wearing, where I'm at. I'm talking about as if I'm rewinding a tape.
Right.
It happened to me several times. Where it happened once with there was this girl that
I
started dating, and then I found out later she was cheating with me on this guy she was living with, and I'm just never have been into that and at all. And so I kind of told her, look, as long as you're with this other dude, I don't want to date you or whatever. So she used to call me at work. So I told my secretary, and her name was Jennifer. And so I told my secretary, if Jennifer ever calls, I'm never available. I'm in a meeting. I'm not there. I just can't talk to her. So I had a dream. And in my dream, I came out of like a department. I turned the corner, and my secretary came walking up to me in this ugly brown sweater that she used to wear occasionally, and told me, hey, Jennifer's on the phone. She said it's an emergency. And then I woke up. I thought, wow, that was really stupid, And I'm not kidding. 2 days later, I came out of this little department. I turned right. My secretary came walking up to me in that ugly brown sweater and said, Jennifer's on the phone. She said it's an emergency. And I about fainted. And she looked at my face and said, oh, I'm sorry. Did I say something wrong? And I said, no, you didn't say nothing wrong. And so I went and answered the phone, and the emergency was her kid and was in my son's class at school. He was with his mother that day, and my ex-wife had forgotten to sign his permission slip for a field trip. So she was calling, asking my permission to sign his permission slip. so he could, so he could go on the field trip. And so that was it. So, but that's why she called and said it was an emergency, but it was to the letter.
Wow. Yeah, that's amazing. That's like tapping into that thing. That's like bolt gun, what he was saying just now. That's a trip right there. They say you're crazy. I don't think you're crazy. I have color dreams, and then one time I had the black and white and color. I mean, it was all black and white except for the color of the thing, that angel or whatever it was, tunic with the gold belt. That's the only color in the whole thing. Everything else was black and white. I mean, it's a trip. Yeah. Yeah, so you guys, 2 hours and 30 minutes. We've been on for a while. And it's like 11:52.
Yikes. Where does time fly, right?
Yeah, really, huh? Emily, this was like fun. I enjoy this whole process and hanging out with the chat people. Cold Warrior's like 2 more to go. Yeah. 2 more minutes. Yeah. It's the first of the month. Those guys are ready to run my little legs off. That's what they're going to do. Shop until we drop. Every month at the first of the month, it's shop until we drop. We all get paid around the 3rd or something like that. So they are like chomping at the bit to go to the store. Yeah, one day recently, me and my wife were doing dishes. We don't have a dishwasher, and we were washing dishes, and we stepped out of the way for my mom, and moved out of the way, and she went by, and she opened up we heard the microwave oven open and close, and then I turned to say something to her, and she wasn't there. And I turned to my wife and said, did you just move out of the way for my mom? She's like, yeah. She went over to the microwave. Didn't you hear it? And I'm like, yeah, well, she's not there. Like, what? And as we were standing there kind of freaking out, getting the goosebumps and all that stuff, then my mom walks in and walks over to the microwave. Opens it up and puts her coffee in there and heats it up. And we're like, whoa. So I don't know what happened there either, Protean, oh man, thank you, my brother. Thank you so much. That is so cool. I appreciate the support. I'm actually making an account to save for either a drone or a FLIR. I think I'm gonna go for the drone first, though. Save. Get a drone. Oh, I'm gonna bust my speaker. I put a speaker under my desk. I got a little teeny desk. I love it. It's perfect. Now I just need one more right here, and I'll be set. Another little bitty desk. Yeah, it is. Actually, there's a better way to donate, I found out, than the top chat thing. I put a link down in the description. It says streamlabs.com. Only because YouTube messes with me now on the money. And right now they won't let me get into the email account that is the main email account, even though I have everything I need except for the password. They won't let me have the password because they say they can't prove it's really me. It's like, what? Are you serious? I just gave you a number out of the other my backup email. I wrote it down, but only I must have changed it again like right away and then didn't write it down. So now I don't have it, and now they're not letting me get into it. And it makes me so mad. And that's the one that's attached to my bank and the YouTube and all that. And here I am, like on YouTube, using it and everything, and they say I'm not who I am. That account's not me, even though it's almost the same name and everything. Like, can you believe it? Like, I don't know what to think about Google. And I found out you can't call them, you can't write them, you can't Pony Express them, you can't Gmail them, you can't snail mail them. I mean, you can't do it. You can't get a hold of these dudes. They do not have a contact thing. The only way to do it is say you lost your password and go through the little process. And if they deem it that it's not yours, you're not getting in it. And there's nobody that you could complain to. It's ridiculous. Yeah, really ridiculous. Drone with the IR. There you go. That is really what we should get, huh? I know right where to go to fly one and get pictures of them too. Really, truly.
But the only thing about the flare with the drone with the flare is, like, I've seen a lot of flare footage, and some of it looks good. Excuse me. And some of it looks like, well, it's hard to, because it's just a white like image. It seems like it'd be easy to fake, and a lot of people just say, oh, that's a dude in a jacket. And I'm not saying that everybody's a faker or anything, but it actually, it kind of could be.
Well, what they're not doing, when you use the FLIR, there's certain thing you got to do. Like, well, one is quality. If you have one of the earlier models, they're not that great. But the ones that are coming out with today are a lot better. But still, you can't see color of the clothes, all that kind of, or, the fur or anything like that. So you have to do a follow-up and put somebody in the same place that they're the size of them. And that way you do a size comparison, because believe me, you put a human next to a Bigfoot and there's going to be a big difference. I mean, a big difference. Bigfoot's going to be big and the human's going to be little, so, I mean, you have to do that and do those follow up, even on regular pictures and videos too, because a lot of times you can't tell size at all, at all. And like we have, me and Jeff got one with a game camera, and the camera makes it look like the Bigfoot's way over there, real far, but really it was only like 40 feet. And we're all down there talking and everything under the camera, and the camera's we're the ones setting the camera off because we're in front of it. And then 40 feet behind us in the trees is a Bigfoot going back and forth. And when we went over there, I was about as tall as its leg when we did the comparison. So, I mean, it looked like it was good size, but you couldn't tell, you know what I mean? The camera angle and the way it looked far away and all that, you couldn't tell. But then when I went over there and we left the camera up there, and then I went over and messed around over there, I was as tall. I was like, my head was about where its hip was, like below its belly button. And you have to do that all the time. Otherwise, all Bigfoot videos that I look at, if the people don't go back and do something like that, it's hard to tell if it's even real or fake or what. But I do have a question of all the Bigfoot photos and videos that I've watched. Where's all the suits? Some of them are pretty damn good, real good. I mean, they look good. If people were making suits that good, you would think 4 or 5 years after that picture or video came out, they would be bragging about it. You would think. And there's a whole lot of different color and types and styles too. So where are those suits? That's what I want to know. I heard somebody else say that, and I was like, yeah, that's good. Where are they? Yeah, Red Hawk. That's a good one. Good pistol. I wonder if Bigfoot could beat up Joe Frazier. Man, I want to get a concealed permit. That's something I do want to get.
Yeah, I need a concealed permit. You know, the city where I work in, man, there's half the time I walk outside, there's I got to deal with crackheads and heroin addicts hanging out on the streets.
Well, Cy, I was in I can't remember the season numbers or anything like that. It was called the Sierra Spy. You can look it up by that. And it was a last minute thing. I wasn't supposed to be on. I was actually working for them, and we had a lot of I actually helped figure out all the shooting locations and all that, and line up everybody to be filmed or taped. And at the last minute, they heard about my story, and then they want to talk about the windows, and then they kind of made fun of me a little bit. Even though they're still my friends, Bobo and those guys, they're all my friends. They're great guys. I don't think it was them so much as the editors and the executive producer wanted the story to be like that, so that they do it. That's what they're getting paid to do. Kind of like sucked a little bit. but the Monsters and Mystery one made up for it. Thank goodness. Yeah, he's cool. Yeah, when the cable companies come in, they hire me to locate the shooting places, help them line up the permits and prices, uh, hire some of the people that are going to help them work around here, contact all the people they want to videotape, and then set up areas where we can videotape them, or times, and get everything all ready before they get here. And then when they get here, it's like go crazy, hop in the car, go everywhere, and then they fly out, and then I wait for the next time they come in, or the next cable company. It's kind of fun. I mean, they pay kind of okay, between 100 and 300 a day, but mostly it's fun, just fun. Well, you guys, I'm going to call it. It's like 12 midnight. I'm going to call it. I love all you guys. Remember, I'm praying for every single one of you, everyone, all the time, at least twice a day. You can know that there's a prayer for you. Even the ones that tune in and it's not live anymore, and you tune in a month or 2 or 3 or 4 months later and you're listening to it, you're getting prayed for, because everyone that watches this video is going to get prayed for. That's how I pray. So you could be a year later watching this video, and the prayer will apply to you. That's how I pray. That's just how I roll.
Yeah, we're lucky, and I say this all the time when we talk privately.
Amen,
Alan,
Biff. Amen.
Yeah, I've been in a lot of different chat rooms and groups over the years, but I got to tell you, man, the group you got coming in here as regulars, everybody that's here now, and some that probably aren't, but you sure do have a good group of regulars, nice people. They know how to discuss things, and even if there's difference of opinion, no one gets snotty, and you always leave this group feeling good. Whereas in a lot of the other groups, it's just fighting and arguing all the time and feeling bad. And you can tell how kind and wise people are when they can sometimes have a difference of opinion and still be grateful to each other and respectful. And I think it's just a huge, good vibe that this whole channel has between what you do, Alan, and between that and the quality of the people you have in chat is just amazing. And that's what keeps me wanting to always just be a part of it and be in chat or occasionally jump on and talk to people, because I think it's just a cool group of people to be associated with. And I know I always tease, but when I put in the chat a couple times, would tap in the chat, that's why I call Alan the truth, and I mean that he doesn't BS, and that's why I call him Alan the Truth Thomas, because he's much different than a lot of people out here. So that's what I think.
Yeah, well, that's cool. Very nice of you to say that. Thank you, sir. That I feel the same way about everybody in here, though. I love everybody. I don't know, like after I get done with the show, I can't hardly wait to do the next one. And there's always like life. And I'm almost to the point where I have it set up almost where I can come in. I've been on a lot more regular because everything's set up and I can just come in, turn on the switches and start doing it. The only thing keeping me now is I'm not done with the rest of the house, of how nice we made this room and the other room. Me and my wife are having the discussion today, like when people come over, they're going to take their shoes off now. Once we get the living room done, everybody's taking their shoes off. No more tracking everything in and all that stuff. And I might even make the dogs live outside. Who knows,
Yeah, right. Like your wife's going to let you kick those dogs outside. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, it probably won't happen, but that's I have a little bitty goal. It's like I'm going to build something for them. Maybe a doggy door that I could lock after 10. Like, go get the cat, go get it. As soon as they go out, lock it.
No, I think you should just get the dog's house slippers and call it a day.
Yeah, I'm thinking Pampers or something. So that they don't, because that's what they're doing, is they're doing their business on the carpet, and they know better.
Oh.
I rub their nose in it every single time, and they still continue. Like when we ripped the carpets out, I actually bleached the floor like 5 times, hoping to get the smell out. And not so much that there was going to be lingering smell. It was because dogs can smell that smell. And they'll come back and they'll revisit old spots, due to the smell. So I'm hoping I got some of those places out. Well, anyways, I want to just say one more time, I love you guys. You guys are the best, the very best. I ain't never had a chat and people following me this good. And you're the best, Chris. I love chatting with you. I'm sorry I'm so bad with phones. I really am. Right when I think I'm going to answer it and then I realize it's dead, I am totally not the phone guy, totally. But once I have it on and everything, I do real good. It's just like getting
it. That's okay. I was just, sometimes if I don't hear from you for a week, I'm just like, oh man, I hope he's okay.
Yeah.
I'm more worried than anything. If I don't see you popping up, on Facebook, or you're not answering my calls, I start worrying. Don't make me come up to Clovis.
Well, you might have to. We're gonna have to take a drive one day. Pretty soon.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we had something planned a couple weeks ago, and it fell through on my end a little bit. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it, and it's going to be soon.
Yeah, I was, huh? That's a trip. Okay, well, you guys, I'm gonna stop the video, and I will see you real soon. Probably in a couple days. I'm thinking like Monday or Wednesday, something like that. I don't want to get in. I don't want to do it when BZ's on or Biff, because I like listening to his show. So I try not to do it whenever I try not to do a show when BZ's on, but he's on a lot. And he does really good. And in fact, everybody should go check out BZ's show. It's SHR. Let's see, SHR Media, isn't it? BZ SHR. I was trying to remember what the S and the H and the R mean. It's too late. I can't think anymore. But everybody go check him out. Or is it? It's shrmedia.com. There you go. Everybody go check him out. He's on at least 3 days or 4 days a week. And it's great entertainment. I'm going to tell you right now. They got it going on for sure. Okay, you guys, I am out of here. We shall see
good night,
you
everyone.
soon. Good night.